I will call to order the October 13th meeting of the Harris Township Board of Supervisors. We're going to start with 2 public hearings, and we'll go into our regular agenda. So please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and the first item up is proposed ordinance 377, permitting parking on the east side of Deering Drive.
At the July 14th, 2025 meeting, the Board of Supervisors received a request from the Springfield Commons Homeowners Association to permit on-street parking along the east side of Deering Drive. Parking is currently prohibited on both sides of the roadway. The Township's traffic engineer, Rob Watts, reviewed the request and noted that on-street parking potential would be limited due to the roadway intersections and driveways. Since the roadway is narrow, permitting parking on either side of Deering Drive could require vehicles to yield to oncoming traffic when cars are parked along the roadway, which would have a traffic calming effect. Based upon required sight distance at intersection and the number of driveways along the east side of the road, staff estimates that a maximum of 10 spaces could be created if on-street parking is permitted. Proposed ordinance 377 would amend Chapter 8, Article 1, Section 1.31 to only restrict parking on the west side of Deering Drive.
Are there any comments on this topic?
I do have one.
Oh, yes,
From someone who contacted me in advance of the meeting that was not going to be able to make it. I'm going to share some photos that they asked that I share. And of course the photos came onto this side of the screen. There we go. So they wanted to point out that they have concerns about this due to safety at this intersection. They said they took these photos while there were some vehicles parked on the street. You can see a vehicle down here. And then there's a second photo that they took, again, with vehicles parked on the east side of Deering Drive and actually our leaf truck driving up to collect leaves. So they just wanted to point out they felt that less than 30% of the Springfield Commons community actually expressed support for this change. And it doesn't represent the overwhelming majority of the community, as you may have been led to believe, and that access to parking for Deering Drive residents is generally sufficient, that each townhome has a generous driveway and 2-car garage located either at the side or at the rear of the townhomes, and that there are 2 parking spaces at the bottom of Deering Drive, 2 at the community center, and roadside parking that is also permitted on Homestead Lane just a few steps away. And as I mentioned, they were concerned about safety, particularly with vehicles traveling up and down Deering and them possibly not driving at a safe speed when they're pulling out of this intersection. They also were worried that this could set a precedent and other streets would be turned into having parking on one side as well and creating other safety issues. And that was from Jeff and Marlene Stetson.
Is that Deering Drive going down toward our leaf avenue?
Yes, this is Deering Drive here. So both photos were taken from Homestead looking north. I will stop sharing my screen.
And as we look at that, it's the right side of the street that will have parking on it if we approve this.
Correct. Where those vehicles were parked in the picture is where vehicles could potentially park if this was approved. So you would be able to see, if you'd like me to pull the picture back up, I can.
Yeah, they're kind of obscured by the trees, but yeah, I see that.
The vehicles are here, so certainly anyone pulling out going westbound on Homestead would need to be cautious, looking down the road or up the road, whichever the case may be, to make sure there's no traffic coming. I believe the speed limits in there are posted at 15 miles an hour. So, and I would note too, the parking wouldn't be allowed the whole way up here to the intersection. It would be required at the distance specified by PennDOT, which I believe is 35 feet from the intersection is the nearest point you can allow parking. And there was a map included with your agenda showing where the parking would be permitted if it was approved.
Are there stop signs at that intersection?
There are where they're parked here. There's not stop signs on the north and south on Deering, but as was reported by our traffic engineer, it doesn't meet the warrants for a four-way stop sign. So this is the only spot where you'd have stop signs on that intersection.
Okay, so, again, any comments? Please come to the microphone. Name and where you live?
My name is Leslie Asbury. I live at 130 Deering Drive. The Stetsons who sent that do not live on Deering. They live in Homestead, and they're allowed to have parking on their street. So obviously, they don't have the same concerns that we do. As I've mentioned before at 2 previous meetings, on Deering, there are 6 townhouses, and none of those have access in terms of a driveway in front of their properties, like all the houses that have driveways with 2-car garages. Our 2-car garages are under our houses, are under the townhouses. And as I've mentioned, those of us living on the side of Deering that we are asking for permission to park have to come down Deering, turn into the driveway at the community center, bear to the right, and come all the way up behind all the townhouses to get to our garages. Which also means if we have guests coming, they cannot park in front of our house to come for lunch or dinner. They have to come and drive and park in the back, which means they would be entering my townhouse through my garage, up a set of back stairs, into a hallway, and then into my kitchen. And that's not the way I don't think anybody would want guests coming to their homes. So that's my first concern. The second concern is they were incorrect in their comment about the accessible parking. We have, right adjacent to the building, we have 1 handicap parking space, which is greatly needed if we have handicapped, obviously, individuals who need assistance. But the other 2 parking places are down below, so they have to then walk up the road, walk up the sidewalk, walk up, and enter from the far side of the building to come to an event. There's only 2 places for visitor parking, and one of them is parked directly in front of the entrance that goes into the facility for all of the athletic equipment and exercise equipment. And in the colder weather, people that live towards the top of the development do in fact drive and park there to use that facility, which means then if somebody is booking an event at the community center, we only have 1 parking place. And it's a beautiful facility. I don't know if any of you have ever been in it. It has a lovely formal living room with a fireplace. It has a large formal dining area. It has a beautiful kitchen. So it's a perfect place for those residents to have gatherings. And now that we're heading into holiday season, especially with Christmas coming, it's the perfect place to have a group that might be 10 people that might be a little larger than what we could accommodate in our home, and it's a perfect place to have it. However, unless you're inviting just the people that can walk from their houses to the community center, they can't come because there's no place for them to park. So I'm asking for, as a resident who lives on Deering where the Stetsons do not, I'm speaking for all of us for the six houses, the 6 townhouses on Deering, that to us it's very important that we have a place for someone to park and come to our home, and also for the benefit of our beautiful community center, for maybe 4 or 5 cars to park there if someone is hosting an event. Right now we have this beautiful center and it doesn't get used anywhere near to what it should be because the parking is such an issue. So speaking as a resident, I'm hoping that you will look at this. There doesn't seem to be any accidents on Homestead, and we've had parking bumper to bumper to bumper, except for driveways, for up until this year, for the 2 previous years, because of people that chose to use their 2-car garages as storage units and had 4 cars, which only 2 could park in a driveway. So we had 4 cars parked all the time on Homestead. And people coming up from Torrey and turning on there were never any accidents. People driving, and I'm out, there's never an issue where I see cars that are flying down Deering that would be causing accidents. People are very, very consistent to abide by speed limits. So to me, that saying it's going to cause accidents to me is not accurate. And as they said, that there are additional parking places, there aren't. There's just 2 down below and 1 handicapped. So I hope you will give this serious consideration for those of us that live there and the handicap it poses for us and also for the residents who really want to take advantage of this beautiful community center, which is free to us to use, but basically prohibits it because we can't park any cars. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Fred. Is that on? Yeah. All right, I'm Fred Daly. I'm from 570 South Academy Street. I didn't even know this was going on tonight, what she's talking about, but I wanted to agree with Leslie. I'm familiar with their development. I travel through there occasionally when they block Academy Street for something. And the one thing I wanted to bring up that she didn't really say as much was the stop signs are on Homestead, correct? Right, so you have to stop to look down Deering anyway. It's not like it's the opposite way. If it was the opposite way, I could see there being a problem. But I agree with a few parking stalls on the west side of Deering, so I wanted to say.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Rob Warner, and we built our house on Homestead Lane 2 years ago, so we're fairly new to the area. I just want to speak in support of what Leslie said and the other gentleman said. You know, if the standard is 25 feet, and you feel that Deering is too narrow, then you're bound to eliminate parking throughout our development. Deering is not tighter than other streets, including and the idea that this was somehow, I don't know, it seemed inferred from that comment from that letter that the overwhelming number of people don't support this is baloney. We've worked and worked and worked to get input from the neighborhood as much as we can, and there are some people against it, but the overwhelming number of people were either for it or didn't respond at all after various tries. I just think it makes common sense to allow the parking there. It's a real hassle if you live in that area and you see what's going on with Leslie's access to her house, and you know, I have cars parked in front of my house, and that's the way it is, at the same 25-foot wide street. So I just want to speak in support of hers, support of this ordinance as well.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment on this topic? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to close the public hearing.
Okay, we are adjourned for the first public hearing. Our second public hearing is proposed ordinance 378, amendments to the sign ordinance.
In 2024, the board referred the sign regulations to the Planning Commission to address issues related to personal message signs that became apparent with the first election cycle following the ordinance redraft a few months earlier. After discussion of the matter at several meetings, the Planning Commission forwarded to the board a recommendation that the ordinance be amended to place no limit on the number of personal message signs of not more than 5 square feet in area per face a property may display at any time. Additionally, the recommendation includes a new subsection allowing not more than 2 signs of 5 square feet or less in area per face to be displayed on properties directly related to a temporary business transaction or service actively occurring on the property. Signs must be removed within 30 days of when the business transaction or service is complete. These signs are intended to address situations where contractors or other service entities, including real estate signs, are working on projects. Activities such as property maintenance or regular upkeep of properties that are not included with this type of sign, since most, since those uses are seasonal or longer and are not temporary in the manner the amendment intends. Other minor technical amendments are proposed with this recommendation, including the removal of references to home occupations, which are replaced with references to home-based businesses. Included with the agenda was a copy of proposed ordinance 378, which included the proposed amendments to Chapter 12, Article 4, section, the sign section. The CRPC reviewed the proposed ordinance at their October 9th meeting.
Would anybody like to comment on this topic? Okay, we'll adjourn that public meeting. We now go to our regular agenda.
Motion to approve minutes of September 8th.
Second.
Any comments on the agenda, on the minutes? Corrections,
I have a
problems?
question. You said September 8th, it's 8th and the 24th, correct? Is that what you're making the motion?
Yeah,
to?
you're okay. Yeah. Yep.
So we're approving both sets of
Yeah.
agendas, okay? All right. Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion approved, the agenda's approved. All right, citizen comments. Here's where we open it up to comments on any item not on the agenda. So does anybody want to address something that is not on the agenda, but would like to bring it before the board now? Okay, moving on. Pennsylvania Act 65 requires posting of agendas before the meeting. Only emergency or minor items and items for discussion can be added to the agenda by the Board of Supervisors. The board have any items they'd like to place on the agenda for tonight? All right, moving on again. Township business. Chief, you're up.
Boy, Chief, it's awful.
I know, right?
Thank you. I appreciate, well, what happened there?
Technology.
There we go. Just want to appreciate and thank you all for having us down here. Our people enjoy the partnership we have with Harris Township, and they love coming down here and providing police services. I will say, after 35 years, this is going to be my last presentation. I'll be retiring at the end of the year. Don't know what I'll be doing after that, but I've really, really enjoyed my time here, especially working with you folks down here in Harris Township. So I appreciate you having us down here. I want to present the 2026 budget. It has some information in here you may care about, you may not care about, but I think it's always important to start with, you know, what we're about. That's our mission statement. I'm not going to read it, but the next slide boils it down to these key points. Committed to being responsive to our community. Missions to improve the quality of life through a community partnership, and we endeavor to identify and reduce citizens' concerns regarding criminal activity, neighborhood deterioration, and continual nuisances. That's our vision statement. You know, committed to the highest standards of professional ethics, exceptional performance, and the pursuit of excellence in everything we do. Committed to the principles of community-oriented policing and to being the most progressive, innovative, and professional police department in all of our endeavors. As our core values: honor, respect, professionalism, accountability, honesty and integrity, and wellness. We expect our officers to lead exemplary lives by adhering to what is right, doing what is right, both on duty and off duty. Respect, we give high regard to every individual we encounter. We want to be professional in all of our actions, behavior, and performance. Accountability is an obligation to be responsible for our actions and our behaviors. Honesty and integrity, we want to be impartial, ethical, and moral in all our decisions and actions. And then wellness, we need to take care of ourselves, co-workers, and families, as well as our community. This is a current, most up to, well, it was the most up-to-date organizational chart we had, but there are a few changes here now, and they're changes for the good, actually. But this is just a breakdown of how we're structured, the patrol shifts, and where everybody lays. Over there is the demographics. Let me get over here so I can see here a little better. Of our police department. It just shows you about our officers. You know, there's 77% of the officers have a college degree, 16% have a master's degree, 25% of our people are military veterans, of which 57% of the veterans have a college degree. 11 of our 15 supervisors have at least a bachelor's degree, and 4 have master's degree, and then 6 administration supervisors have command school training like FBI National Academy or Northwestern School of Command. 16% of our officers are female. We just hired, we had 9 females. We just hired another one. Will be going to the academy in January. So of our 60 sworn complement, 10 of those are female. And we just interviewed and replaced another detective with another female. So we have 2 female detectives out of 8 detectives. So proud of the opportunities we're providing for women in our police department. 11% of our officers are persons of color. And that's something we've strived and worked very hard at to increase representation so our police department looks like the communities that we serve. These are just some of our goals and objectives. We want to reduce crime through crime prevention initiatives. We want to control, crime control by swift apprehension, prosecution, and punishment of offenders. We want to restorative justice initiatives to benefit the victim and the offender. We want to promote traffic safety by identifying high crash locations and conducting speed surveys and enforcement. Mental health support initiatives that are responsive to the needs of the community. I'll have a little bit more on that as we go through here, some statistics we have through our social work program. We want to provide substantive community engagement, community education programs, including youth programs, and then we always want to recruit and retain quality employees. These are just some of the partnerships and collaborations we have throughout the community as we want to foster community diversity, equity, inclusivity, and belonging. These are just some of the groups that we work with. And it's not an all-inclusive list, but this just goes to show you where we're working with and who we're working with in our communities. Just some of the activities here, some of the things we've done in Harris Township and other areas that benefit the area, but Bullsburg Memorial Day activities and parade, the Night to Shine at Calvary Harvest Fields, Multicultural Fair, a child safety seat check, seats, career days at state college school districts, and you can just go on and just see. These are just some of the things that we've done throughout the year, and we want to continue to add those type of activities. It gives an opportunity for, especially with things like Coffee with a Cop and Center County Triad and our Citizens Police Academy. It allows our citizens to interact with police and learn a little bit more about what police do, and realize that police are much more than just arrests and traffic citations, what have you. So this is just some of the trainings and professional development in 2025. As you can see, we've done a lot, and I think this is page 1, but at the top there, right there, Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program, or our MICSAP program. We haven't had that in a while because of some retirements, but we just got Officer Sipes trained the past year. What that's going to mean is he can go out and he'll do heavy truck enforcement and inspections and making sure the trucks that are on our roadways are safe to be out there. As part of his training, the last week of his training, it occurred, I'm not sure where it was. It may have been in Harris, but I'm not quite sure of that, so I don't want to say it was, but they ended up pulling a truck over that was 15,000 pounds overweight. The driver did not have a CDL license, nor were his brakes in really good working order. So those are just the type of things that are on highway. One of the things I have put in the budget this year was for a set of scales so that we can actually do our own weighing of trucks. In the past, we had to rely on state police availability to do that. So we're going to be able to do that now, and it's all with an ear towards making our roadways safer here. So, but just some of the other things here. If you have any questions about them, I'll try to answer them for you. But I certainly don't want to sit here and read them to you. But just want to illustrate the point that we're involved in a lot of things, and many of these things occur each year just to keep our people on the cutting edge of things. This is just some more trainings that we've had, some upcoming ones right here that we'll be finishing before the year's out. These are some of the conferences and symposiums we attended in 2025. Our annual Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Conference. As an agency, we've been accredited by the state since 2008. We've achieved premier status, which means that there's about 150 standards you have to meet and you have to show proofs of that. As a premier recognized law enforcement agency, we only have to show one proof for each one of these standards, as opposed to 2 or 3 that you had to previously. But just some of the other things are national and Pennsylvania Police Social Worker Conferences, Hostage Negotiation Seminar, Crisis Intervention Team International Conference, and then the PA Chiefs Conference. Here's some of the trainings we have planned for 2026. Again, a lot of these are things that our in-house instructors have to recertify every year to make sure they're up to standard and that they're up to the most latest technology and what have you. But just a sampling there. There's more right there. As you can see, we spend a lot of time, money, and effort on making sure that our people get the best training. And it doesn't matter where it's at. We'll send you, if it makes sense for the agency to do it, we're going to send you there. So I think it's important for you folks to know that this is the kind of training we expect our officers to keep and maintain, all with an eye towards bringing a better service and better product to our constituents. Some of the grants that, a lot of this stuff is, rather than just relying on the taxpayers for it, we've reached out and we've had grants. We talked about the social worker program, which was funded by a grant in 2022 for 2 years. We just brought on a second police social worker, actually a care specialist, who was funded through September on a grant. So we now have 2 individuals providing social work services for our communities. And that includes State College and then College and Harris Townships. We continue with our Victim-Centered Intensive Case Management, or our Domestic Violence Unit. That's a grant we've had since 2006. We're very proud of that. We keep getting that renewed. Then the Stop Violence Against Women grant was renewed again. We had a PCCD grant, or Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency grant, for technology improvements for new surveillance cameras and a new records management system. We're getting complete new camera systems downtown State College, and the records management system is a consortium that includes Penn State, Ferguson Township, Patton Township, and the borough, where we got a grant of about $900,000 to pay for a new records management system. So made possible by a PCCD grant. Again, we continue to get the DUI, pedestrian aggressive driving, and seatbelt enforcement grants, and then the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Source Investigation Project, or our SIP program, where this is an attempt to keep alcohol out of underage persons, like the individuals who are furnishing alcohol. We will try to track back to the source. If an underage has alcohol, we track it back to the source and hold those individuals accountable. All this accomplished by grant funding. Retirements and resignations. Lieutenant Kelly Aston retired after 24 years, I believe it was. She's now employed by the State College Area School District. Detective Brian Lenig resigned, and he accepted a position with the Department of Homeland Security. And Officer Price resigned and took a position with another police agency. Spotlight on officers, introducing our new members of the department. These 3 individuals right now, Officers Cadets Lucas Barr, Chris Conkey, and Austin Crespo, are attending the IUP University of Pennsylvania Municipal Police Academy, and they will graduate November. 2 more cadets, Camden Node and Samuel Bradley Smith, will start IUP Academy in January. I have an update to this. We just offered another cadet today, and she accepted, and she will be going to IUP starting in January. And then an individual, Dylan McCloskey, was offered and accepted a position with SCPD. He'll graduate from Mansfield Police Academy in November and begin his employment with us in December. So if you do the math, that's 7 officers. We were down 10, we got 7, and we still have 3 openings that we're trying to fill right now. So feeling good about that. New employees, as I talked about, social work program, Jess Rodriguez was hired as a police care specialist as part of the social work unit. Her primary focus will be the juvenile population. She'll work to build strong collaboration with Children and Youth Services, Youth Service Bureau, and the schools and other agencies that provide services to juveniles. She'll be joining the multidisciplinary investigative team on child abuse and the Center for Alternative Justice Youth Aid panel. And then Ryan McElvoy over here was hired as a records technician. He's a recent Penn State graduate with a degree in criminology. So right now our records division is staffed fully. We're only down 3 officers right now, so we're making heady progress in those lines, along those lines. The mission of the State College Police Social Work Unit is to enhance public safety and well-being by addressing the underlying social, behavioral, and mental health needs that contribute to crime, crisis, or victimization. And we want to assist sworn personnel with strengthening community trust through outreach and education, support officer wellness for the department's sworn personnel, integrate and practice a trauma-informed response to victims, families, and vulnerable individuals, and reduce system strain by reducing police contacts and connecting individuals to appropriate social service agencies. They're very much successful in that because, believe it or not, there are times when people don't want to see a uniform there, and sometimes it may exacerbate that, but having a civilian social worker in soft clothes makes it much easier to deal with some of these situations. So we've been very, very pleased with this program over the last 3 years. So far, police social worker Amanda Matana and care specialist Jess Rodriguez, in 2025, they've handled 330 referrals. Since the start of the social work in June of 22, there have been 1,713 referrals. So you can see how it's getting utilized. In 2024 and 25 to date, there were 488 referrals from the State College Police to the Center County Crisis Intervention Team Coordinator. And there were only 10 people out of those 488 who, over just 2%, that were arrested and incarcerated. So that's one of the goals of the whole program, is to deflect and divert people from arrest when they need help. Oftentimes in the past, the only way you could get somebody help was by citing them or arresting them to get them into the system. So right now you can see we've been pretty successful with plugging people into services and getting them help without having to arrest them. A little bit about referrals. This right here shows a breakdown of where those referrals are coming from by location. As you can see, there are 29 from Harris Township, 40 from College, and 261. Over here, so these next 3 slides are all pertain to Harris Township. That's the breakdown right there. So race of persons referred to in Harris Township. As you can see, the breakdown there. Down here is the gender, and this is the age. So those are all, these 3 are specific to Harris Township. Any questions on any of that?
On your social work slide, there was a canine sitting on the floor.
Not ours.
Pardon?
It's not ours.
Okay.
Yep.
That was a question.
Yep, I learned to anticipate that, Denny. So accomplishments of 2025, Lieutenant Brian Foster received the Crisis Intervention Team CIT Officer of the Year Award. Officer Corey Cooperrider was selected for the Pennsylvania DI Association Top Gun Award for the number of arrests he made getting intoxicated drivers off the roadways. We established an improved protocol for hazing complaints integrating PSU student conduct. We selected a vendor for the new records management system, which I talked about, and that company is Pro Phoenix. They're a New Jersey-based company, and we've been working with them. And the hopes are that we'll be able to flip the switch sometime late 2026. And then we started the supervisor promotion process for 1 lieutenant and 1 sergeant. And then Officer Josh Dietz was selected as a domestic violence detective. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we replaced Officer Lennick as our juvenile detective with Officer Amy Williams, who's been with us for 19 years. And she will assume that detective's position in November 17th. So some of the other accomplishments, we held the annual Citizens Police Academy. We held the Center County Camp Cadet. We participated in the annual Special Olympics torch run. Some notable events and responses and investigations in Harris Township. We had an investigation of a domestic related shooting, and that incident is still ongoing. We investigated one fatal crash. We had a former Bollesburg resident arrested for rape of a child and other related offenses. An officer was assaulted while investigating a domestic dispute down here. We had a domestic dispute in which a female was arrested for burglary, criminal trespass, DUI, and other related offenses. And we had a resident arrested for ag assault and strangulation after a domestic dispute. These are just some of the calls for service. This gives you a breakdown over the past, years to show you where you're at. Harris is in the yellow there, as you can see, just a slight uptick in number of calls, but has been pretty much remained pretty steady throughout that period there. Any questions on any of that? As I like to do all the time, I'd like to show you the part 1 and part 2 crimes that we have to report, and this is part of the FBI's UCR reports, Uniform Crime Reporting. As you can see, the part 1 crimes up top are the serious homicide, rape, robbery, and things of that nature. As you can see, the most aggressive type behavior here are assaults in Harris Township, 15, and thefts, 10. Overall, from those, pretty safe township. I mean, it's not perfect like anywhere else, but you have a pretty safe community here. And then down below are part 2 crimes, which are, they're ranked lesser, but no lesser importance than the other ones. But as you can see, fraud, 21 right there, is and a lot of that's due to some of these elderly fraud scams or whatever. They're on the uptick everywhere. So, but as you can see, and then you have a DUI, alcohol control, and then criminal mischief, and then 63 being the big one here for disorderly conduct. Overall, though, it shows that Harris Township is a pretty safe place to live. Any questions on that?
Where does identity theft,
What's that?
where does identity theft fall?
You see it here.
Would that be fraud?
Yeah, it's a fraud thing, yes.
Okay. Has that been on an uptick?
Not so much that. It's more or less these scams where you'll get an email about, and they usually target the elderly with it as well too, about, hey,
Grandson.
your grandson's in jail and he needs an attorney and you need to send me $5,000 or whatever. And they're so convincing that despite our best efforts of putting out, releases about that, people still fall for them, So that's one of the things I would caution people. Don't run, if you're given a deadline where you say you have to immediately do something, that should give you pause for concern and to stop and make a phone call to somebody, because it's just like you get an email like, you're gonna, if I got one the other day myself that was supposedly from the state about driving on the turnpike that I didn't pay a parking pass thing. Well, I haven't been on the turnpike in over a year. And if I didn't pay it, that they were gonna, suspend my license and what have you, and issue a warrant for my arrest. So I just deleted it. But there are a lot of people that would have, said, oh boy, I gotta send money, And so that's the thing I think people need to be aware of. Any other questions on those? And then this is just from this year, January through August 31st. It just shows you right now where we're at. So again, this is an even better year than the 24 year here. So questions on any of this? Okay, this is just on a map here that shows you your crime data. We plotted it to show you where it's all occurring. And then up here are the numbers and the types of those crimes right there. Not surprising that these tend to all be clustered, you know what I mean?
What is that smaller circle area?
Where?
The one to the right of the big cluster, what is that?
This?
What neighbor is that?
That's the Jacks Mills Drive
Yeah.
area.
Oh, okay.
And the one thing I want to illustrate here, as we have here in the red, we've kind of offset these randomly for privacy protection, so it doesn't look, like it's Denny Hammeister's house or something like that, I just throw that out as an example there, Denny.
I'm way up there at the top, left point there.
Denny's house is right in here. I kid. But, so, questions on that? Okay. So, just a little bit, enforcement programs for Harris Township, as I spoke about earlier. In 2025, Officer Austin Sipes was trained in motor carrier safety assistance program to enforce commercial truck violations. As I said, in the 2026 budget, I put in for a set of scales so that he can be able to weigh those trucks and do the inspections to keep our highways safer. Keep my fingers crossed that they'll be approved in our budget. Officers conducted 331 traffic stops. This is up from 279 stops the previous year. We continue to do speed sentry data collection and compliance enhancement with the radar speed signs. And again, I would ask if anybody has issues with speeding or anything like that, you think it is, we can do this and put this up down here so that we can, verify or assure people, yeah, it is going on or it isn't going on, but it's important to do that. So then our strategic traffic enforcement plan step identified top locations of target enforcement actions. Then again, as I talked about, our aggressive driving grant for PennDOT provides the staffing to target specific violations, and then we'll get to that in another slide. So again, these are the locations and these are the violations. They're probably not shocking to anybody in this room about where the locations where we have the highest incident of traffic violations: Bull at Shingletown, and the 50 to 100 blocks of Bull Avenue, East Bull and Bear Meadows, and 700 to 900 blocks of Bullsburg Pike. And again, probably not very shocking that everything relates to moving violations like speeding, traffic signals, and stop signs.
Do our speed detection units that we bought fit with your speed unit, or are they totally separate?
Well, we can, go ahead.
We have two of our own,
Yeah.
yours are through All Traffic Solutions
But
as well, but
does our data talk to your people?
No, but you can you guys can provide it to
Yeah,
us.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And then some crash information. You can see this is data from September 1 of 2024 through August of this year. Our total crashes are 68. That's down 1 from the previous year. Reportable crashes are 34, and they're down 3. And a reportable crash, just to refresh you, is any crash that results in an injury, no matter how slight, or if a vehicle can't be driven from the scene under its own power, has to be towed. That's a reportable crash. It has to be reported to PennDOT. Injury crashes, we had 15. DUI-related crashes, we had 6. That's up from 3 the previous year. Fatalities, we had 1. That's down by 1. And in fatal pedestrian crashes, we had 0. Aggressive driving violations continue to be the top crash contributors, like following too closely, safe speeds, and red light violations. This is where our crashes are occurring. You can see that. So I don't know if it probably doesn't shock anybody where they're occurring. And then finally, this is our proposed rate. We're proposing 76 hours of police service per week, as we have done in the previous couple of years. That comes out to $141.16 per hour of service for regular contracted hours. And in the premium rate, if you exceed the hours at the end of the year, you would pay the premium rate. We try to keep a close eye on that so you don't have to pay premium. A lot of that jump is because of the cost of health care that we had to endure, and a raise for the officers they got in 2025. We work very hard to try to keep that figure manageable for everyone, because we want to be cost effective, and we want to be cost conscious too of what we're trying to charge. Did you break down what it is? You usually do that.
Yeah, I know, but average daily cost of police services per resident is 22.5 to 23 cents a day. That does not count the new single-family homes that have been built in the last 5 years. That's another 289 people. It's gonna be about 22 cents a day.
Okay. That's all I have.
How do we
Any
stand
questions?
on excess under hours at this time, chief?
I don't have that break down right now, but I can get it tomorrow. I'll send it to you.
It'd be useful to have just a.
Yep.
I just want to comment, you know, for the amount of police services we get, every time I look at this, it looks like a big number, but there's no way we could provide that type of service we get for that amount of money if we did it on our own. And I just want to commend you, chief. I did the math. It's a 5% increase over last year. I think we can handle that.
I appreciate it.
And we appreciate you keeping it at a reasonable rate.
We do, because, you know, budgets are important. Everybody has to make a budget, and we want to make sure that we can provide the service that you've become accustomed to, and also make sure that it's just affordable for everyone as well, too. So we appreciate that. As I said, our officers enjoy policing down here, and we hope to continue the partnership with Harris Township for many more years to come. Unfortunately, I won't be the one, but I do want to take this time to thank each and every one of you for your hospitality down here and your willingness to partner with us in the State College Police Department. I want to thank you again.
We look forward to a new chief. Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Just remember to tell the new guy that when you turn over, not to stop the red Corolla.
I'm going to tell them about a blue pickup truck, though.
I would definitely tell him on that.
All right. Thanks again.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Can I go next? Chief, I want to say one thing. Sure. And for many years, I've commented on just patrolling versus speed enforcement and stuff like that. And thought that you ought to weight it more towards the speed enforcement and traffic. And I have a nephew who's an officer in southeastern Pennsylvania. And he told me that he thought it was really important to drive around so you knew what the neighborhood looked like. So when something was out of ordinary, it would be like, oh, I need to keep an eye on this. So I've changed my mind.
We try to do both, but, you know, I think it's important for a citizen to see a police car in their neighborhood. Not only the citizens are seeing it, but anybody that has any nefarious ideas, it's good for them to see a police officer in that neighborhood as well. So I think traffic enforcement is very, very, very important. We're going to continue to do that, but I also think it's important for, you know, especially like packages we talk about, especially Christmas coming up, and we deal with what we call porch pirates who steal packages off, you know, deliveries off porch. So I think they get to know what car is supposed to be in this neighborhood and what doesn't look great for this neighborhood.
Why is that beat up white panel van sitting there?
Exactly, so, all right.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad to hear that, Bruce. Thank you so much. All right, we'll see you all.
Yep. All right, next item up is Clearwater Conservancy Hess Farm Project.
All right, so Elizabeth Crisfield, the Executive Director of Clearwater Conservancy, is here this evening to provide the board with a presentation and an update on the Slab Cabin Run initiative at the Hess Farm in Shingletown. And I'm going to get her presentation started.
She's a Harris Township resident
She's
also.
a Harris Township resident. I'm going to get her presentation started here in just a second when I can find it.
Yeah, good to see you guys. I came and introduced myself maybe a little less than a year ago. I live a block and a half down Chambers Alley. I am the Executive Director of Clearwater Conservancy. My staff member, Ryan Hamilton, actually runs our land protection program. I'm standing in for him. So my apologies if I don't remember all of the stats and about this project, but we really wanted to make sure that you guys were aware. This project is in Harris Township. It's something we've been working on for many years. But just a little bit of background about Clearwater. We are obviously a locally formed grassroots organization, but we are also a nationally accredited land trust. We've been serving central Pennsylvania since 1980. And over those 45 years, we have conserved over 12,000 acres We have restored 26 miles of streamside buffers. That's keeping all of our streams cool and filtering pollutants out before it gets in the water. And we've also guided over 7,000 outdoor adventures through our Centered Outdoors program. Our strategic plan describes our programs as connecting people with nature, protecting land forever, restoring streamside buffers and other natural habitats, and then stewarding the land that we've protected. So those are our compass points. This is the Spring Creek watershed. This has been the focus for Clearwater. Now we serve Center and surrounding counties, so our geographic service area has grown a lot over the years. But this was always the core and the original focus for our organization. This is the Bald Eagle Mountain, and this is Milesburg right up here at the top. This is the bottom of the Spring Creek watershed, so all the water is flowing from this side down there. This is Buffalo Run along 550. This is Bellefonte. This is the Logan Branch, which is Rockview and Pleasant Gap. This is the Canyonlands going through Spring Creek, and you get to to Millbrook Marsh and Spring Creek Park here. And then this is more of the headwaters. Oh, sorry, this is Buffalo. This is Big Hollow. This is running through the university area. So just a quick tour of the watershed, because what I want to talk about is the headwaters here. This is really where Harris is taking your stewardship of the watershed. Primarily the very top headwaters of Spring Creek, a little bit of Cedar Run, and this edge of the Slab Cabin Run, which is the part I really want to talk about today. I also just want to reference your zoning map. The project that we're going to talk about is here. It is zoned agricultural, and we'll just provide this as some context for the presentation. So a little bit of a backstory for the Slab Cabin Run area. So this is, this is the Tussey Mountain here. Bullsburg is right here. So this is the area heading toward Ferguson of Slab Cabin Run. And this dotted line that wraps around here is the Zone 2 wellhead protection for the Thomas Harder wells of the State College Borough Water Authority. These wells were put in, I believe, 1960. And a lot of Clearwater's work, our early work was very surface water oriented, but we pivoted to do a lot of groundwater protection as well. So this work that we've been doing in Slab Cabin Run for about 15 years has all been oriented around that groundwater protection, making sure that our drinking water supply is clean and that we can provide enough infiltration to secure the volume of water that we need for this community. And we work, our mission overlaps a lot with the State College Borough Water Authority. These are some of the these are some of the priorities from this plan. So forests and wildlife of Tussey Mountain, productive agricultural lands, exceptional value and high quality streams that have native trout reproducing in them, coming off of the mountain. And everything that we do is, everything that Clearwater does is helping with that high water quality, keeping the Spring Creek a destination for trout fishing, and keeping that groundwater safe. So this gives you an idea of just how many partners are also working in the Slab Cabin Run. This is a super important area to conserve in our area. But we are not alone in this. These yellow, these are forever easements through the Center County Agricultural Land Protection or Preservation Program. And Penn State has quite a bit of land in this area. And this is the Whitehall Regional Park. And then the State College Borough Water Authority also owns land in this area. This is super, super important area. And this is the work that Clearwater has done over the years. So this is the Meyer Everhart easement that we protected in 2017. We have easements here and here. We acquired the Musser Gap property that was conveyed to DCNR and is now a major trailhead for access to Rothrock State Forest. And we also have riparian buffers that are planted all through here trying to protect the water supply. We are currently developing the Woodland Stewardship Network with lots of property owners in Harris Township that want to protect the forest, want to improve the health of the forest, and are interested in wildlife habitat. So we're just providing technical services to them to understand how to treat invasives or do other things on their property. But the property that I wanted to highlight today is right here. It's the Hess Farm. This is the easement project that we have in progress right now. These are some photos from the property. This is a 115-acre beef operation. The property owners have been very invested in conservation over many years. We have riparian buffers planted on this property. They have built a manure storage facility. They have fenced their animals out of the water and provided water supply that is more ecological and really helping to protect our water supply, because this, according to the Susquehanna River Basin Commission, this property is a very important infiltration area for the Thomas Harder well field. So we want to keep it undeveloped because of that infiltration. We also want to keep the infiltration clean so that it's not impacting our water supply. But in addition to just the importance of protecting this property, Clearwater's also using this property, this story, this work that we've done in the Slab Cabin Initiative over all these years for education and outreach. We took a whole field trip of land trusts out to the Slab Cabin Run area to talk about how watersheds get protected through land trusts. And Brian Heiser joined us on that field trip. We had people from Penn State. We're really trying to do a lot of education around the project. And we are quite close to our goal. So this project has an $875,000 price tag, and this bar graph is showing you how we've almost made it to that goal. We are partners in the Regional Conservation Partnership Program through NRCS, and that's brought us nearly halfway to our goal. That's an amazing funding source for projects like this, for both agricultural and forest projects. And then the Susquehanna River Basin Commission, I mentioned this is an important infiltration area. They invested heavily in this project because of that. We also have funding from the William C. Bullitt Foundation in Connecticut. They were compelled to contribute to the importance of this project, and also the Foundation for Pennsylvania Watersheds. And then Clearwater and the Hess Harding Farm are also contributing. The landowner is donating toward the project, and we are contributing some of our reserves. And we have $150,000 to go to close this project, which we plan to close in 2026. So my main purpose in coming out today, I guess two purposes. I know a lot of you have been in the community and forever and have known about the Slab Cabin Initiative. I kind of wanted to remind you of that longstanding work and of Clearwater's mission. But I feel like this project is of interest to Harris because it's in Harris. We are supplied by the State College Borough Water Authority, so the protection of this property is going to really help sustain our water supply forever. Some things that you can do to help us complete this project. First off, I think it's important to thank the decision makers that were involved in like the Everhart Meyer easement and all of the other work that's been done here. This is like the whole community has been working on this area for a long time, and it's important not to forget that and to like credit the people who have gone before us. And also to talk about water supply protection with people that you know. I think a lot of us just turn the tap on and we know the water's good, so we really don't have to think about it too hard, but we want to make sure that it's good forever. So continuing to talk about the importance of water protection, I think is important. We will be having more education and outreach events about this project in the spring, so I'm hoping that people will come out to learn more about the water supply. And finally, we would love it if Harris Township would be willing to invest in this project. We just have this small gap left to complete the project, the $150,000 that we still need to raise. I'll follow up with a letter that provides more of the details about this, and maybe you can consider it at your next opportunity. But But tonight I just wanted to give you the backstory of the project and the work that we've been doing. Do you have any questions?
Anybody? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
More water, Spring Creek Watershed Commission presentation.
I don't have any real formal presentation, so it's kind of a hard act to follow. As I look back here in the audience, but looking to you, I feel a little more comfortable. I want to thank you for giving me some time tonight. I'd like to go over the budget, the Watershed Commission budget. That should be hopefully in your packet. Did you receive that? Okay, and talk about our funding a little bit. But I certainly appreciate your time tonight because I know you've got a lot of stuff that needs to be addressed. So thank you. The commission's been around for about 30 years. In 2008, 12 of the 14 municipalities in the watershed entered into the intermunicipality agreement to provide stewardship to the watershed. We are the government's rep, basically, and representation into this world, along with Clearwater and 50 other different groups. We're kind of your voice in this, or we try to be your voice in this. Currently, 11 of the 12 municipalities have been regularly making their annual contributions to the commission. The only one that's been an exception has been Milesburg, and they're a little bit dysfunctional right now. In 2021, members agreed to move from a formatted organization to a proactive action-based organization based on a 2018 Phase 2 implementation plan that was developed and approved by the commission. So all the municipalities agreed to move into that. Over the past several years, in addition to our bi-monthly meetings and presentations, we've worked to establish increased communication, coordination, and collaboration among the municipalities. Their authority, we work with the authorities within these municipalities. We work with your engineers, and we work with the conservation groups, whether it be Clearwater, TU, Pennsylvania Fish and Boat. We work closely with those things. Successes over the past couple of years is we established 3 working committees. One is a governance committee, which is composed of the engineers, and it's chaired by Kent Baker out of our planning commission. We have the authorities committee, which is chaired by Ray Salinas, and Pam Ray's is the chair of the county planning commission or planning organization. Pam Adams for COG planning. And we have a conservation and stewardship committee that is chaired by Jim Coslow out of the conservation district, and Andrew Bechtel out of Middle Susquehanna River Keepers. So these committees meet regularly. We've moved again from being more of a discussion organization to an organization focused on action. The committees continue to meet. Additional successes have been we've developed a GIS map that's be available on our website that will be a record of all the different projects that are ongoing within the watershed, so that our engineers can see what each other is doing, see what our authorities can see, know what's going on. Conservation groups will share their information, and eventually it will be a platform to potentially do planning. We've had 2 State of the Watershed sessions where we have 65, 70 people from across the community joining in to talk about what the issues are within the watershed, hear what projects are going on, and have discussion. We continue to support Clearwater's Conservation Cleanup Day. We've initiated a Fall Spring Cleanup Day where we're working with TU. We provided community tours of the various watershed projects that are going on. So we've been to Spring Creek, we've been to Walnut Springs, we've been to the university to see what they're doing. We have numerous outreach tables and events, and we provided the expert commentary to the Commonwealth's MS4 regulations. We have strong engagement and cooperation with the Conservation District. and we just recently spun up a grants committee. So we've been able to accomplish all this with your financial support and the financial support of the municipalities. If you go back and you look at the 2018 project plan, they said we needed to have about $300,000 to $500,000 to operate, and you see what our budget is. So it's significantly smaller, but we've been able to do more, and we appreciate your help. We've been able to do this with part-time employee and an AmeriCorps intern. This year we started focusing on the impact of stormwater in the watershed. We have a working group that's been formed, consisting of local, state, community groups. When I say state, we've got DEP, Fish and Boat involved. We have Susquehanna River Keepers involved. So we have people from the university. It's a pretty broad-based organization that's looking at the impact of stormwater. Stormwater runoff is the #1 direct threat, we think, to the watershed, because all that rainwater that runs into our watershed, if it's running off permeable surfaces, it isn't going into the, replenishing the drinking water. Hess Farm is very important to replenishing and maintaining good water. But we have to be able to manage our development. We have to make sure that what we're putting back into the ground is clean. And when we don't manage stormwater, we've got some problems, because we're increasing the temperature in Spring Creek. We're putting chlorides into Spring Creek. We're putting sedimentation into Spring Creek. We're not replenishing the well water that we need to do. So stormwater runoff's a critical aspect, a critical challenge for the community as the population grows, as tourism grows. We need to be addressing it. We don't look at tourism too much, but if you have 5 million people coming into the area on an annual basis, that's got to have some significant increase in the use of water and resources. This year, we're asking member municipalities to increase their support by 10 cents per capita, from 15 cents to 25 cents per person. For Harris Township, that would be an increase of $592. So that's my very brief report. We will offer, if you folks would like, the supervisors would like, a more in-depth report from us at a later time, but I know what you've got on, like I said, I know what you've got on your plate tonight, because we had a hand in that. So questions for me?
Raising it to what per head, per capita?
25.
Michael?
No.
Tracy? Frank?
No, I'm good.
Every year we hear about the MS4
Yes.
projects. It's all best management practices. It irritates me that no one actually tests the water quality to see if they're working. Is there potential for the commission to rally some volunteers to go out and collect water samples?
There is water sampling that's done. There's water sampling by DEP. There's water sampling that's done by, I think, the Senior Environmental Corps throughout the area. There's a group.
Keystone Water Resources.
Yes, I didn't get that. Thank you. Keystone Water Resources. Our part-time person, Elise Johnson, is working now with Keystone Water Resources. It's something I think that we should be doing, is be providing those metrics back to the community, and then they provide an annual report. But I'm a picture guy, I need a little stick figure to understand stuff. So I think that we need to probably get that message out a little clearer. But there are reports. Bob Carline, who's okay, I know he's part of the Atlas group, which is part of the original part of the commission. They do reporting and they do work. So yes, I appreciate that. That we do need to do a better job of providing metrics, clear metrics, as what the state of Spring Creek is as far as water quality goes.
Yeah, are the activities we're taking
Yes.
effective?
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Appreciate that comment. I'd like to, by the way, this is Randy Brackbill, for you who don't know Randy. Randy is the chair of the Watershed Commission, and he's on the Bellefonte Borough Council.
Thank you. All right, next up, Mount Nittany Health Minor Land Development and Lot Consolidation Plan.
On August 21st of this year, staff received from HRG Incorporated a minor plan that proposes the addition of acreage of the medical center owners acquired from PennDOT, as well as some minor changes to the parking lot design that normalizes some undesirable geometry and adds 18 parking spaces. The proposed changes supplement the land development plan that the board approved earlier this year. One review of this plan was completed, copies of which were included in the agenda, as well as 2 plan sheets. Sheet 8 shows the design approved earlier this year, and Sheet 10 shows what is proposed with this revision. A small number of comments are yet to be addressed, but should be resolved in a timely fashion. And I'll tell you on the board back there, the 2 plans on the left, the top plan shows the lot consolidation itself, the gray area, the darker gray area. There is the PennDOT right-of-way that they acquired. This is is that sheet 8 or sheet 10 down there at the bottom? That's the second sheet you had in your agenda packet. It shows the area here that a little bit of parking will be added and some changes up here, I think, change some of the geometry of the parking lot. Staff's recommendation is to move to approve the Mount Nittany Health Minor Land Development and Lot Consolidation Plan, contingent upon satisfactory completion of outstanding comments from the September 3, 2025 memo of the principal planner and September 17, 2025 letters of the township engineer and zoning officer. And I will add that I believe Chris Nasuti from HRG, there he is here to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we do that, to get discussion started.
Okay. Anybody, let's start with you. Do you have any comments?
I have no, this is an opportunity to reclaim some right-of-way, as Todd alluded to, so we're trying to provide a little more parking in this. I think we heard that in the original submission that that would be needed, so they took advantage of this and are providing additional 18 spaces.
Anybody out here want to comment on this at all? Go ahead.
Your traffic flow out on the Circle Drive is one way going around the building, isn't it, Chris?
It's still one way coming out the other way, yes.
We had talked about.
We haven't changed the
That's a much better alternative.
What else, Frank?
No, I'm good.
Tracy, Michael? Okay, a motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lingo South Minor Subdivision Plan.
On May 23 of this year, staff received from Pentair Engineering Incorporated a minor subdivision plan that proposes the creation of 3 lots of less than 10 acres in area, one that is 4.99 acres, one that is 6.71, and one that is 7.172 acres, 2 lots of more than 10 acres in area, a 20-acre lot and a 30.471 acre lot, and a 57.472 acre residual tract. Additionally, the plan proposes the dedication of a strip of land that is 1.54 acres in area that connects Rocky Ridge, Kaywood Park, and Kaywood North Estate lots to Linden Hall Road via a future trail that can be constructed on the property. If you look on the plan on the wall to the right, in pink is that area that I just described that connects Linden Hall Road to those developments. All lots will be served by wells and on-lot septic systems. A sewage facilities planning module resolution was previously approved by the board and is under review by DEP. 3 reviews of this plan have been completed, the 3rd of which was included with the agenda as well as a plan sheet. The area the Lingles event came to the township is highlighted, like I said, on the plan sheet. A small number of comments remain that can be addressed in a timely fashion. One waiver request has been submitted for plan scale. The requirement of 11-3.1 of the Harris Township Code of Ordinances at the time this plan was submitted was that the plans must be drawn at a scale of 1 inch equals 50 feet or larger. The plan is drawn at a scale of 1 inch equals 200 feet due to the large acreage of the property. Staff's recommendation is to move to approve the Lingle South minor subdivision plan contingent upon the satisfactory completion of review comments from the September 30, 2025 memo of the principal planner, the October 7, 2025 letter of the zoning officer, and the October 8, 2025 letter of the township engineer, and I think Tony Fruchtel from Pantera might be here. He is. He's on.
Well, I'll move the motion.
Okay. Comments from the public? All right, going around the table, anything?
Couple serious ones. The intersection of that right-of-way with Lindenhall Road has to be looked at because that's on a hill and a curve. And if we have bicyclists or anyone walking into that intersection, it's a very narrow road right at that hill spot. Not a great place to put that.
I will let you know that I did speak with Pantera about that. That was one of my earlier review comments. And they have consulted with PennDOT, and they've done the math that is required to determine adequate site distance for driveways, and they say they've met that.
But that's not a driveway.
Which intersection
He's
he's
talking
on?
about, I think, for the dedication.
The dedication one.
No.
Plus there's a driveway from lot 2 coming into Lindenhall Road there too, on that same hill and that same curve.
Mhm.
I wouldn't support that, either the right-of-way or the driveway from lot 2. That needs to be looked at.
In this particular case with that right-of-way, that's something that the property owner is offering to give to the township based on our official map. So it's not a requirement that they provide that. I think if there's a concern about safety, we could certainly look at ways of trying to make that intersection safer, but I don't know that the property owner is going to be willing to move that
Well-
right-of-way away from that property line to meet.
I go by there every day, I know where it is, so.
I understand, I'm just pointing out the practicalities of what they're offering the township versus what we can require.
Plus, there's a house right across the street from the intersection going down the slope into Sheer Run, so that's a very, very dangerous spot. Second point, over on lot 6, the siting of the drain fields, primary and secondary drain field, are pretty close to the well site for the monthly property. Do the monthlies know that there is not going to be 2 drain fields above their well?
Have no way of knowing.
Because the wellhead for monthly is shown with the 100-foot setback all the way around. But then if you jump into lot 6 above that, you've got a primary and a secondary drain field, probably 200 feet from the wellhead. And with the slope of that land and the flow of the water, that needs to be looked at.
Well, the sewage facilities planning module is being reviewed by DEP now.
Okay. Could we reinforce that discussion with them?
I think you just did.
Well, can it be done more strong than that? If I'm not sure monthly knows about the lot 6 configuration, but it goes up around their property. Most of it sits above theirs, and the drain fields are right into the bottom of their property.
If I may, the SEO and DEP will both be getting copies of the plan with the topography, the wells, the lots, the layouts. So they are aware of the location of the well field relative to the proposed septic areas. So
The monthlies are, or your plan is? Yeah, well, DEP isn't living in that area. I can't support that one either. That's just the way it is.
Other thoughts and comments, anybody?
Just a question. On the easement, where Denny's concerned that it comes on to Linden Hall Road, the question is, we can accept it, we don't have to let that path come out onto Linden Hall Road, right? We could block it, as long as it hooks up with Rocky Ridge and the other developments, we could shut it off there and not actually let it go onto Linden Hall, correct?
There's no requirement that we improve the path to any degree, so it really comes down to, it's a dedication essentially to expand Kaywood Park, provide that connectivity, but insofar as the board wants to establish it, yes.
Right, so basically, unless we establish that on there and put a hookup onto Linden Hall Road, to Denny's point, I mean, we would have to okay that down the road, correct?
Right, I think there's probably some slope challenges out there anyway, that before you could really grade a pathway down, you'd have to go in there and do some grading and probably take some trees down and other things. So for the time being, it would just be township open space that wouldn't be necessarily an invitation for folks to walk up from that road. Maybe someday if we can overcome some of the concerns, but at this point it would just be dedicated for future use.
Yeah, I would be happy with that then, because like I said, if we're just having it there so we can have some connectivity to some of the other developments in the future, I have no problem with that. And I agree with Denny, I think we shut it off at some point and not go on to Linden Hall Road.
We can't build that, that's far too dangerous.
That's what I'm saying, we just don't build that end of it.
And the people that are building, there's a triple E home being built, and a Plants family, they'd have access to that walking path too, wouldn't they? Because they're in Kaywood
North Estates, North Estates,
Yeah.
yes, and they'd have access to that too, right.
as well as Stephen Linda Weaver.
Right, and whoever is at lot 2 or on this property,
Yeah.
this one right here, these folks would also have the ability to walk.
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Right.
And lot 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point, so.
Michael, Tracy, any thoughts?
No, I don't really have any concerns. I like the fact that we did provide the easement, but I agree, we do have to make, if we're going to improve it, we have to make sure the connection to Linden Hall Road is safe.
In the meantime, we're preserving some open space and creating opportunities for connectivity. We don't have to, we're not guaranteeing that we're gonna do exactly what we're gonna do. It's up to us to make those decisions down the road. All right, we have a motion and a second, is that correct?
We do.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 4-1.
Thank you.
Proposed ordinance 377 permitting parking on the east side of Deering Drive.
We had a public hearing on this earlier. If anybody would like me to rewrite the agenda language, I will, but otherwise I'll.
Probably not necessary. I move to approve ordinance number 377 permitting on-street parking on the east side of Deering Drive.
Second.
Comments, thoughts?
I have a comment on it, and I'm not, my thoughts, I've been running this around my head. And you know, I just, do we need that parking on that street? That's what it comes down to. And the one thing I look at, and I understand the concerns that people don't have access to their house from the front. But I always have gone to due diligence. I mean, if that access was denied after they bought their house, I could understand that. But that situation was there when they inked the contract for the house knowing that there wasn't any parking in the front. So I just can't get around my head on this one to approve it. I don't know that, I don't know that we really need it one way or the other. I know that, you know, parking is always a premium, but the other side of me says if we go ahead with this one, how many other communities are gonna come around saying, hey, I'd like some parking out in front of my house? And, you know, now we've gone down the slippery slope. So I'm just still not convinced that, that we need to do this.
Well, I differ in that because I feel like that if there's parking is a premium, and I realize that maybe you can say that, you know, people understood what they were buying into, but I think that sometimes, you know, we have the ability to do something to ease some of the parking in this particular, I just walked through this neighborhood today. I walked through this neighborhood a lot with the dogs. So, I don't know, I just don't see any reason not to have a little bit of additional parking where we can have it. And I also think that we take everything in a case-by-case basis. And that's what we're here to do.
Well, I've said before also, in actuality, parking along the side of the streets can be traffic calming. I bet people aren't driving down Homestead as fast as they're possibly driving up and down Deering, because Deering wide open, it's more tempting to just coast down the hill. Now, residents have said they haven't seen anybody going excessively fast. The concern about sight distance, I think, is totally unwarranted. The parking will not be close enough to the intersection where it's going to interfere with reasonable sight distance. And again, we're here to serve the people of our community, and some people have a hardship that maybe was unanticipated when they decided to purchase that property, but I think we can give them some relief. And I appreciate the other aspect of the clubhouse not having sufficient parking, or do you call it a clubhouse? I forget. Was it the community center? And so that would ease a problem for access to that community center. So I'm totally in favor of it.
Excuse me, could I speak to the gentleman's comment about?
Please come up to the microphone.
Again, my name is Leslie Asbury. I live at 130 Deering Drive. And in response to your comment, I was told prior to moving into that parking was permitted on the east side of Deering. In fact, there were periodically, with the day that the movers were moving in, they had to have 2 cars moved because they didn't have room for the moving van to park out there to start unloading my furniture. I was personally told by Kelly, I've forgotten her last name now, she was the secretary of the board for the Homeowners Association, and told me that parking was permitted but only on that east side. And so all this time, I believed that that was the case until my daughter parked there, and it was later in the evening, and she got a parking ticket. That was the first that alerted me and any of the other residents along the east side that didn't know that parking wasn't allowed out there. In fact, the people at the very end townhouse next to the community center, their babysitter was parking out there continually, day after day, and we just all assumed that that was allowed. One other safety thing that I forgot to mention is the Springfield Commons contracts with Lawnscape Limited to do all of the landscaping, trimming, mowing, and snow removal. And I can tell you, for the spring, summer, and fall, Lawnscape is on Deering Drive every Monday and Tuesday from early in the morning till maybe right after lunch. And they have big vehicles because they're out there hauling, bringing mulch, having all the equipment for mowing, and they're much larger than any vehicle that would be parked there, both above Homestead and below Homestead. And I've purposely sat out on my porch and observed when we first started this whole process 2 years ago, and I can tell you there's never been an accident. Cars are very mindful of the Lawnscape vehicles parked there, and they even go even slower than they normally would when the street is completely clear. But in response to your question, I was told that parking was permitted on the east side, and and I had no reason to question it. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'll comment that we're not responsible for what the homeowners association or someone else told you. You didn't ask us.
I was moved to
Yeah, I understand. And I do note that our traffic engineer reviewed this, looked at the site distances and stuff, and he's our professional, and he okayed what were the really limited amount of parking that we're going to establish there. I will assume that this is going to be get the cars off the road when it snows.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
Right. So those are my thoughts. And the main thought is that we had the traffic engineer look at it. We didn't just do this blindly. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion and a second? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Proposed ordinance 378, amendments to the sign ordinance.
As with this past item, this agenda item was already read in the public hearing.
I'll make the motion. Go through ordinance 378, amending the sign ordinance.
Second.
Any comments from the public? Comments here from the board? Questions, thoughts? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you. Motion passes. All right, we're getting close. Short-term rental regulations.
So for the past 2 months, staff worked with Township's special counsel to prepare updated draft regulations related to short-term rental uses. Included with the agenda are 3 draft ordinances that I'm going to briefly summarize. The first is short-term rental licensing and regulation ordinance. This ordinance would require all short-term rentals to be licensed by the township. Licenses would be valid for 1 calendar year and are non-transferable. The draft retains the majority of the provisions that were reviewed by the board back in August, with some notable revisions, which I'm going to go over briefly. There was an added findings and authorization sections. The ordinance declares that any violation of this ordinance is considered a public nuisance. We removed the general liability insurance requirement from the draft. Clarifies that required parking may consist of paving, stone, or similar material, provided it is improved to a mud-free condition. Parking is prohibited outside of designated spaces. It requires that all advertisements include license information, maximum occupancy, and available parking spaces. It prohibits occupancy of recreational vehicles, camper trailers, and tents. It adds regulations concerning open fires, fire pits, and charcoal burning grills. And also, the license fees and violations and penalties section was updated, and there was a revocation of short-term rental license section added as well. I do want to note that after the agenda was published, I did get feedback from Supervisor Moriarty, which I followed up with the solicitor on regarding those last 2 sections. And there will be a revised version sent to the board that includes more of a clarification on how long the revocation would apply. So I will send that to the board here for you all to have a copy of after the meeting.
This section 3.3.11 and 12, which is?
I think 12 and 13.
12 and 13?
Yeah. The very last 2 sections of that ordinance.
Oh, okay, 4 and 5.
Right.
Okay.
And give me 2 seconds here. I will summarize what we're proposing to change in that. If I can find it here in my email. One moment. So what we were proposing to change there is that, oh darn it, that's So that the revocation would be for the remainder of the rental license cycle and 1 calendar year, but not to exceed 13 months. So that's how long revocation would be for in either of those two sections. And that was recommended by special counsel. So the next ordinance I'm going to summarize is zoning amendments to define and permit short-term rentals. So to permit short-term rentals, the zoning ordinance needs to be amended to define the use and identify districts where it is permitted. The board referred this issue to the Planning Commission on September 8th, 2025. The Planning Commission discussed that at their September 15th, 2025 meeting and recommended the following: adding a definition for short-term rental to the zoning ordinance, limiting the use to owner-occupied properties, and permitting the use as an accessory use in the following zoning districts: agricultural, natural areas, agricultural residential, rural centers, two-family residential, multifamily residential, village, and village commercial. The commission did not recommend permitting the use in the single-family residential district. And then finally, modifications to the property maintenance code. Short-term rental properties would need to obtain a rental housing permit from the Center Region Code Administration prior to receiving a short-term rental license from the township. This draft ordinance would amend the property maintenance and fire code to require a rental housing permit for any rental period of 1 day or longer, creating consistency with the draft short-term rental ordinance. The Board of Supervisors should review the draft ordinances and provide feedback to staff. If the board is generally satisfied with the draft regulations, staff should be directed to finalize and advertise public hearings for the proposed ordinances. And I will also note that Mr. Walker, our special counsel for this item, is available online if you have any questions of him.
Okay. So, let's open up with public comments. Can I see a show of hands? How many people want to speak to this?
One back there.
Okay, good.
I don't know if anybody online would like to speak or not.
We certainly have been over this a few times. All right. So as we speak, and anybody further would like to speak, I'll tell you that there's one thing that always drives me nuts. I've gone to many academic conferences. There's people that get up to the microphone and say, I agree with the person that previously spoke. I want to reiterate everything they said. So let's try to avoid repetition.
This is all inclusive. This ordinance is all short-term rentals, whether they're owner-occupied or not owner-occupied.
Okay, that's what
And Kurt's ones will be grandfathered in.
that's what we.
Okay, anybody wants to come up and speak to this, please?
One gentleman back here has it.
Just say about grandfather.
If you live in the next county over, the next township over, and you bought a property as a short-term rental, we're not going to take that right away from you.
And you're not going to, could you give a bit more detail about that?
We're not going to say that you can no longer rent it out as a short-term rental.
You're not going to put a day restriction
Ma'am,
on
if you're
it?
going to speak, I need you to step to the mic, so she can get you on the record for the minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so name and residence.
I'm Bonnie Goebel, and I live in Springfield Commons. So I'm sorry, I just wanted some detail on what you said. I hadn't heard before the word grandfathered, so maybe you could go into some detail about what that means, actually.
So our ordinance will set up certain restrictions as it's written now, including it must be owner occupied. If we have someone who lives out of the township, has bought a property as an investment property and using it as a short-term rental, we're not going to take that away from them. And we're not, so we're going to, that use will be able to continue.
So if it was bought and the person was not occupying it, the owner was not occupying it, but it was bought several years ago and has been a short-term rental since that time, you are not going to say, now you have to live in that property. You're going to grandfather in what the original understanding and situation was.
Yeah, and not that you have to necessarily live, but you could also use it as a long-term rental. But we're not gonna change the existing the situation for existing owners.
Okay, now another detail is that it has been discussed that you're going to limit the number of days it could be rented, but that's not going to apply, what you're saying, to those of us who already own properties that we've been short-term renting.
Yes, that would still apply. So the only difference between a non-owner occupied and an owner occupied one is if it's currently not owner occupied, there's an exemption provision in the ordinance for that requirement specifically. So if you're not owner occupied, you can continue to rent.
I'm sorry, I missed that because of the.
Yeah, if you're not owner occupied, you could continue to rent by getting a license, but you still have to get a license and meet all the other license requirements, which does include a 120-day limit. That's what the ordinance currently is drafted to say.
So grandfathering is not taking place. It's not the same situation as when people bought years ago.
It's not holistic where you can do whatever you want. There's still a licensing requirement that would have to be met, including a restriction on the number of days.
Okay, I think grandfathering is an inaccurate term then.
It really is. It's a non-conforming use. Right now, they're not permitted, but they're not permitted, basically. So that's the key. And so anything that exists and has been used in that regard, in that way, even though it's non-owner occupied, is considered a non-conforming use. And that will be allowed to continue until the property is ownership is transferred.
Yeah, if the property is sold.
A couple of other things, like if you decide to owner occupy it, and then you can't move out and do it again. Or if you decide to put it up as a long-term, full-year rental over 30 days, which many people do, and those properties currently have to have the Center Region Code inspection already.
Right.
And so, we're not, anybody that's already renting full year, as a full, long-term property, has already conformed to that.
Right.
So we're not putting any extra onus on the Airbnbs over and above what long-term rentals are doing.
But the extra part that's coming on is the restriction on the number of days.
Correct.
Okay, so that's different.
It is. As short-term rental, there will be a 120-day restriction on all properties. But again, one can decide if it's not economic to do the 120 days of short-term rental. You can go to full-year rental like so many other property owners do.
Thanks for your explanation.
I have one comment on that. It's not that the 100, we currently have no regulations on short-term rentals. This is creating regulations, so the 120 is put in as a regulation that's coming in for short-term rentals. Before, we didn't have one, and technically, they aren't supposed to be happening, but this will cover the rules and regulations going forward, even if, when they say grandfathered or whatever, yeah, as a non-owner occupied, you will be able to continue to operate your short-term rental, but you're going to be following the rules that we're putting through in the ordinance.
It's not the same as it was, those of us who have owned property and have rented them. So, thank you.
Please.
So Brian Spang from Kaywood. On page 5 of the handout here, it says the commission do not recommend permitting the use in single-family residential district R1 zoning, I assume?
That's right.
So what does that mean?
That was a recommendation of the planning commission. It's ultimately up to the board if they want to accept that recommendation or not.
So we don't know if that's going to be accepted or not at this point.
That wasn't ever my thinking, and I think I can't speak for everybody else, but no, we're going to allow it in R1, yes.
Okay. We've been over this a lot, but the 120 days, it seems a little strange, considering I've heard arguments that we don't want to have these properties sitting empty, and then if we have a short-term rental that's limited to 120 days, it's basically 2/3 of the year, it's sitting empty, and you're losing revenue, because we pay 6% to the state of Pennsylvania for every short-term rental, 5% to the county, plus we pay taxes on any profit. So you're losing revenue by that house sitting empty. Is that really what you want to do?
Mr. Spang, I beg to differ with your calculations. I've been through this, and what you're saying doesn't make sense. Well, I'll just put that right out there right now.
So why doesn't that make sense?
It doesn't make sense because.
Tell me why.
Give me the numbers. You tell me why, because.
I ran the numbers.
No.
I know what the
Okay,
average
you're not-
household income is
Yeah.
for Harris Township.
Right.
I ran the numbers.
Okay.
You're getting more money from the short-term rental for 6% and 5%. 6% to the state, 5% to the county, plus the profit that we're paying taxes to the county, to the township as well. That is more revenue than the average household income for Harris Township.
I don't get where you're getting the 6% and the 5%.
That's-
on property taxes? Or,
That's above and beyond property taxes.
no,
So for every rental that is done, there's 6% withdrawn that's given to the state, 5% that's given to the county. It's 11% taken out. You guys need to run the numbers.
nothing to the township though.
5%, we don't get that.
We don't get the
We don't get
6%
any
of the
of that.
state, we don't get the 5% of what you're paying to the county. I believe we
Well, where
don't
does that
get-
go
I'm
then?
not done yet.
Well, it doesn't come to here.
It goes to the hotel tax program that funds
That's
over
Happy
$2
Valley
million
Venture Bureau.
worth of things in the county. We don't get that money.
Well, you're part of the county.
We don't
we
get
never
that
see that
money.
money.
You're
The
part of
township-
the county.
The township coffers do not get that money. We have our own budget from the separate budget than the county. We don't see an extra penny.
Excuse
I'm
me,
sorry.
have you talked to the Happy Valley Venture Bureau where this money goes? Do you know what they do with this money? You should take a look.
Well, maybe you need to talk to them.
I don't need to talk to them because I already know what they do
So
with this money.
6% and 5%, that's what's coming out. That's a lot of revenue.
That comes out of
That-
you.
But that's a
It's not
lot
for-
of,
It's not for the township.
well, I pay taxes on the profit that's made there. The 1 point whatever percent, that's still paid,
If you,
plus the property
That's if
taxes.
you live in the township.
So you.
that's if
so
you live in the township.
The
We have
board
property
wants
owners.
my property
Okay.
empty for 8 months a
Excuse me,
year.
sir, we have.
The
I don't-
board wants my property empty for 8 months a year. You see,
We need-
you
we
guys
need-
all said
we
you
need
didn't
to-
want empty properties for
Okay,
sitting
we need to
around.
stop this. This is not an appropriate discussion. I'm going to stop it as the vice chair right now because we shouldn't be having an argument about something like this. So, point taken, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I believe that, I don't know, Mr. Walker, did you want to say something to that? I thought I saw you raising your hand. You're on mute. Okay. Looks like he's having some technical difficulties.
Okay, while we wait for that, anybody else?
Okay, there's
He's off.
Oh, here we go.
better.
Yes,
Is that better?
yes.
All right, so I've got about 4 devices working right now to try to make this work on my back porch. I apologize. I just wanted to confirm that the hotel tax does not come back to the township. In addition, the purpose of the ordinance is not for raising revenue for the township. The purpose of the ordinance is to preserve the quality and characteristics of the residential neighborhoods that you have created in Harris Township. If this was simply a money grab or an opportunity to raise more money, there would be a significant opportunities that we could look into raising fees, asking the legislature to amend the laws to allow for you to add those taxes, when that's not what we're doing. What is being proposed is an ordinance that protects the quality and characteristics of the residential neighborhoods that you have. When you have short-term rentals, you are concerned about the negative deleterious effects on those neighborhoods. And what you're doing with this is you are limiting the impact of those neighborhoods for those people that do in fact live in those properties full-time.
Thank you. Anybody else speak, please? Come on up. Name and residence.
Yeah, my name's Sean Houts. I'm a resident of College Township currently. Hopefully at some point we'll be a resident of Harris Township. I acquired my wife and I acquired a property in Harris Township 4 years ago with the hopes that at some point that'll become our dream property. In the meantime, before we acquired the property, we did I'm sure you've heard all of this, and I apologize, I haven't attended a meeting yet, but we acquired the property with the understanding that we could short-term rent the property as a source of income in the meantime. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen what's happened to the cost of materials, the cost of building, the cost of doing anything now. It's pretty prohibitive. So like, I'm not sure exactly when that's in the cards to do things there to make that property our home. But in the meantime, we wanted to continue to rent the property. So I guess I was just laying the groundwork there. I guess initially I just had some questions, I guess, about what the process is going to be, I guess, going forward. I think this might not be the forum for like some more open dialogue or maybe more collaboration, I guess, with people that are currently, conducting business in the township in this manner. I guess I'm just kind of curious, like, what what is the plan going forward? I guess in the iteration of the ordinance and whatnot. As a part, as far as, I guess I'm understanding that now I'm limited to 120 days, which will be economically prohibitive and make it challenging, I think. I have a clarifying question regarding that 120 days. But I guess in terms of just the township's adoption of whatever ordinance and zoning changes, I guess, that are made, like, what is the plan, the process, I guess? Is it just like...
Mark? Yeah, if the board tonight asks staff and authorizes us to move forward with advertising public hearings, we would do that, likely at the November meeting.
Okay.
They'd hold public hearings. I don't know if you were here when we first started the meeting, but there was 2 public hearings first thing.
Yep.
Tonight. They'd hold public hearings next month. And at that point, if they chose to, they could adopt the ordinance that evening. So that would be, if they decide to move forward tonight with the ordinances and ask us to advertise for a public hearing, that's what would happen. And then once the ordinances are adopted, if that occurs, then staff would begin, administering those regulations. Property owners would need to come in and apply for a short-term rental license if they intend to continue operating as a short-term rental. Also get a rental permit from Center Region Code and move through that process to get their license and their permit.
Okay. A couple of other things. I guess the original reason that I got into rental properties in the first place was because I was helping some elderly grandparents that I was helping out with debt and providing other resources for. And so that kind of started me on this journey of rental properties, and since I've had a range of experiences. But one thing I can surely tell you is that the difficulties I've had with long-term tenants versus the short-term tenants is like the difficulties with long-term tenants like far outweigh like what the issues have been with short-term tenants in terms of property maintenance, just the appearance and like value added to the community. I've had tenants that I can't evict. I've had tenants, with animals that have damaged properties that have bit other neighbors. I've had negligent fathers that let their kids walk around in broken glass that apparently have been broken for months. And that's what kind of led me to kind of get out of that situation in the first place. It'd be much easier if we could find like all tenants could be good. But the reality is it's very difficult to, as a landlord, to enforce and chase these long-term tenants if there are issues. They're just, it's not generally laws don't seem very landlord friendly. It's very difficult. I mean, I had that one tenant that I couldn't evict, they were squatting for 2 months, and I had other tenants ready to move in, and then they were homeless. So I kind of got out of that, but I guess just a little bit of history there. But I guess I'm curious, back to the 120 days, I guess just if I can ask a more specific question. 120 days, is that specific to just the short-term rental days? Is a property owner able to rent for somebody that is moving to the area for like 3 months and then needs a interim housing before they find their permanent home?
Yeah, the way the ordinance is drafted, if someone has a short-term rental license, that's the accessory use of the property. So I don't believe you could switch back and forth between long-term and short-term as you choose. So if it's a situation where you're intending to utilize it as a short-term rental, that would be the intended use of it.
Is that something that could be considered, though? I guess I found that like in many cases, like as I've rented, in my most recent situation, I'm renting a property. I rented it. The rental period started as 1 week, and it's led to 3 months. because the people have not been able to find something else. And so, like, you know, that gets into another situation too in terms of advertisement. That has happened to me several times. And so if you're only advertising for periods of 3 months, though they didn't initially think that they needed 3 months, and so you're losing that advertising window to be able to identify those prospective tenants. But I guess, is that something that could be considered, I guess, before the final iteration? Again, so the properties don't go unoccupied, don't fall into deferred maintenance, and, you know, make better use of the assets that we have available. And the pretense in which the property owners bought properties in the first place.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak to this? Anybody else?
Oh, we have someone up there online, Chris Dash.
Hey, one more thing, sorry, I'm sure you guys get harassed a lot. I just want to say thank you for the time, and I know it's a big investment. That's actually one thing that rental properties has allowed me to do is invest in coaching and other things that I might not have the time and resources to do otherwise. But I know you guys are making a big investment to be here, so thank you for your time.
Chris Dash is online.
Right, my name is Chris Dash. I live up on the hill on Tressler Street. I heard this was just brought to my attention tonight, so I apologize that I'm just getting up to speed on the changes. We've rented, I don't know, 30 years probably. We've gone through, we have our permit. We've had mostly long-term rentals, but changed the last few years to short-term. Similar to what the gentleman said prior to me, you know, we had problems. We had damages done with a long-term tenant. And when the cost of utilities went up, it cost me more in oil in a year to rent our apartment than it did what I was making. So that's kind of our backstory. My question when I'm trying to go through the changes, my question for the board tonight is, can someone explain the parking regulations? I'm a little confused over that. And I don't know if this is the forum or not, but I just didn't understand if we had to have.
I can explain that really quickly here. So let me just find it here in the draft ordinance. Let me just see here. All right, so basically, a short-term rental property needs to have one parking space for each bedroom that's being rented in the property. And that can include spaces within a garage if that's available to accommodate vehicles. Those parking spaces need to be improved to a mud-free condition with some type of pavement, stone, or similar material approved by the township, which would also count towards a maximum lot coverage. So the parking spaces need to be 9 by 18. That's our standard parking size in our zoning ordinance. And it's parking can't be permitted on the property except in designated spots. So people can't be parking in the yard, basically. That's kind of a basic overview of what the parking requirements are. And as I mentioned when I was reading the agenda language too, the ordinance requires that information is also posted in any advertisement, so anyone coming to stay will know that they're not allowed to have more than so many cars operated from the property.
So is the parking allowed off-street? I mean, on the street, I mean?
I don't believe the ordinance specifically says that you cannot park a car on the street. Does it? Let me find it here. Oh, it does say under section A there, yes.
You can park your own cars on the street.
So so they have to park in our driveway and we have to park on the street. Is that what you're saying?
That's a possibility.
I'm sorry?
I'm saying that is a possibility. I don't know your driveway or how much space you'd have to devote to a short-term rental to meet the ordinance if it would not allow you to also park your vehicles in the driveway. But,
Well, we have adult children and
no.
who are working at, 5 a.m. I can't do-si-do
No.
my tenant.
Well, a lot of people in that neighborhood, I live on Kimport Avenue, park on the streets permanently. And the residents are allowed to park in the streets, and so you could designate your parking spaces in your driveway, as far as I can tell from the ordinance, for your short-term rental. And have your kids park on the street. Except during snow emergencies, of course.
So why can my neighbor who has 4 cars park all of them on the street, and I have to?
That you can
I'm
park
not
your,
allowed to do that.
you can park your own cars in the street, but under the ordinance, that makes sense because we're having parking problems in other neighborhoods because of short-term rentals. So we want to get the short-term rental cars off the streets. So that is.
So what's the difference? If
Okay,
it's
but
one car in my
again, this is a comment period, it's not a discussion. And just even answering questions is a courtesy to you right now, as far as I can tell. You're perfectly entitled to get a copy of the proposed ordinance. What we're doing this evening is just having, if we move it forward, there'll be a public hearing on it in November where you can come and comment then, and you can be fully informed at that time.
If you're voting at that time, is there any way that we can, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate the information, but it seems like the decisions are already made.
Well, we have been working on this for months, and we're trying to get it as fair as possible for everybody to protect our communities, as our special counsel had said. And so, yeah, you're probably not going to change our minds too much unless something unfathomable that we couldn't have possibly imagined comes up. So, anyway, I think this conversation between you and me has to be over.
Let me mention that enforcing whether it's a homeowner or a visitor or a rental on the street is going to be difficult to do. We don't have the license plates of the landowners or the homeowners. So, to me, I don't think that's a stumbling block. Please.
That's what I was going to try to clear up, what you guys are saying. We're permitted, when we file. Identify yourself. Oh, Fred Daly again, 570 South Academy Street. From what I read through the whole thing several times, in the permit that we're going to be required to get from you, we have to draw out our driveway to scale, measure off-street parking, and per bedroom, that's what you're going to have. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there's no way of you saying that those cars have to be parked in that driveway based on what I read. So if those visitors, I'm talking about non-occupied, because we won't have any cars there, like her 4 children. So we won't have a car there. But if our tenants decide to park in the off-street parking, from what I read, it's not a violation. What you're required, they're not going to complain, Tracy, because it's public parking.
No.
So we're allowed to park there.
According to what's in the, what we're proposing in this ordinance, no, your tenants must park in the driveway. That means if there's a complaint coming in from one of your neighbors that your tenants are not parking in the driveway.
Does it say they must park in your driveway? From what I read, it says to get a permit, you must have the right amount of parking per bedroom. So then if the tenant decides, and it's not going to happen, I'm saying, at my place, it's not going to happen. We have 6 parking stalls for a 3-bedroom home. But I'm just saying what she's saying, if her kids park in the driveway and they park in the non-outwards, and like you said, who's going to enforce it?
I think, over the course of this, we've received a lot of emails and contacts, and I've seen a lot of pictures of short-term rental properties of cars all over the lawn.
I think that's what you're trying to address here, those couple people that caused the problem.
And I think if you read the ordinance, we're doing a pretty good job of addressing that.
I agree.
I can do that. If I go to section 3-3.9A, 5A, the number and location of all parking for overnight guests shall be designated in the license and shall be located on the owner's property and not in any private, community, or public right-of-way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't say they have to park there, just has to be designated. So
No, it
you
says
just,
they must park
thank you
there.
for backing up what I said.
Anybody else? Sure.
Richard Capers, Harris Township. Have you guys had a cost projection done from your special counsel if the owners of these short-term rentals decide to go up against you in litigation? What it's going to cost the tenants or the
If
taxpayers?
someone litigates against us, we're gonna defend ourselves.
Yeah, I was just asking if you got a cost projection.
No,
Because there's a couple main things that just keep getting brought up that could be sat down and spoken about, and probably, people come to an agreement on, rather than having to take it any farther than that.
I'm pretty confident with the special counsel that we contracted with, has been very familiar with this, that any challenge to this ordinance will not hold up, and any competent attorney is not going to push it from a property owner's side. Because they should, if they're good professionals, they should realize.
So the answer is no, that you haven't had a cost projection, that if people.
No, we haven't, and we're not worried
to know
about
what
it
it's
either.
gonna cost the township.
That's why we got special counsel, because we want this to be right. Nope.
Yeah, I mean, with all respect to our council, it's tough to, how long is it gonna take?
I don't know. You
Yeah,
haven't
so,
asked.
we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what action's brought against us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, comments from the board?
Are you looking at me first? Well, I've heard of all this. I mean, it keeps going back, and again, it comes out to emotion. I hear more what if the, whatever. But I've read this ordinance. I've sat in the meetings that we've had. I've sat in the meetings with our special counsel. Right now, we have no regulations, and we are seeing some problems, and we've had some complaints, and we've had some, people going to the wrong house and beating doors in, and we've had this. So, from my standpoint, to eliminate the public nuisance, I really am very comfortable with this, what I've read, and this ordinance, and the minor changes that Tracy wanted on the time frame. I'm ready to go with it. Let's send it.
That's all the questions then, sir.
I'm not done yet.
Oh, okay.
Geez, Tracy, you're not done.
I just want to reiterate that on the recommendation of the planning commission with adding the residential, I just wanted to reiterate that. And the second thing, I just want to reiterate,
You're reiterating a lot.
3.3-3.10 exemptions to short-term rental requirements, section A. Oh my
Give me
gosh.
those numbers again, Tracy, 3.37.
3.3.10,
Okay.
and then what does it go to? 3.3.10 is a point, there's no
Which one are you looking
3.3.10.
at? A or B?
A, it's in A, but it doesn't have, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a paragraph.
Ownership.
The ownership paragraph, I take exception to that paragraph.
Which part? Ownership
The
of the property
ownership,
shall be considered to be
the majority
transferred.
ownership of a corporate entity section, which owns the property sold. I question that, and then that is it for me. Oh, and if we need be to add a specificity of making sure that we understand that people must park in the driveway. That's it for me.
What part don't you
I'm not
like?
sure why you don't like the ownership of that
Which part don't you like?
What's the problem with that? Because
Oh, you want me to say it?
it's just an
yeah.
explanation of when ownership of a
No. It's not just an explanation. Point two, the majority ownership of a corporate entity which owns the property is sold or otherwise transferred to a separate individual or entity. My exception is the majority ownership. It should be any ownership. And if it's just the majority ownership, that means that I can own it 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. I can transfer it, the 25% to anybody, anything, any reason, any way, and I still do not have, I can go to a next generation, or it can continue on, or it can do this. And the other point being that if I hold that, I'm equating that to having a property owned by 4 different people with joint tenants in common. If you have one person leave or one person want to be bought out of that joint tenants in common, or a new owner come in, the deed has to be changed. So to me, there is no difference between this and a joint tenants in common. So, and that was my question.
If I may. I think, Mr. Walker, do you have any feedback on that? I know that was language you had recommended regarding the majority ownership. Do you have any recommendation on that?
Yeah, the issue of the majority, I fully understand your concern, and I can appreciate the comment. I will say that there is no public notice that would be provided that we could follow up on regarding corporate ownership of an LLC. So let's say it's, Tim Walker's Short-Term Rental LLC that I have 4 different owners with, and if 2 of those owners were to leave and they own 51% of the corporation, and I either buy them out or replace them with someone else, there's no notification requirement that we would automatically receive. It would be up to the corporate owner to make that disclosure to us. It would still have ownership by the LLC itself. It's just the investors in the LLC would be different. And so I'm not sure how we would police or enforce that from a municipal standpoint.
I just registered my LLC, my LP, my corporation, my S corporation with the state of Pennsylvania, and I was required in that registration, which I must do annually, to put down the members of that LLC, the members of my LP, and also the holders of my S corporation. So that's also in the Department of State.
To the township.
Yeah, well, pardon?
There's no requirement of notification to the township, so we would have to add some sort of notification requirement to this ordinance, and then unless somebody was to tip us off, we would have no way of enforcing that.
Well, I don't understand why, because I'm also required to, you can look at the Department of State, you can look up every LLC, every LP, everything, and find out if there has been a change of ownership that must be reported every year.
You could do that. We could do a search at the Department of State. That is an investment that you would have to make in terms of searching for and paying for copies of all of those documents. And it is something that we could do. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just wondering how practicable that is.
Well, I guess it would depend on how many.
I can't imagine there.
You can't imagine there'd be that many, but,
if any.
Considering, but.
I think it's a moot point.
I think so.
Is this something that was bothering me in here?
Be unbothered. It's a moot point.
Be unbothered?
Can we keep going across on the comments to the board?
I'm done. Done.
I just had a comment on what Tracy said about the off-street parking that she was proposing to you, and I wanted to hear from Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, were you sitting here all night tonight?
Not all night, no. I had a different
All right, then I'm going to direct to you guys. Leslie Asbury came up here and talked about off-street parking, and and you guys approved it. She's going to, for ease, she's going to be permitted to park across from her house and not in her driveway or in her garage. So I'm not sure why the short-term rentals are going to have to use
the parking spaces that are on those properties and not allowed to use parking, private parking, where just about everybody down through Main Street, they do not use their driveways in the alley. They're allowed to use public parking. So I don't know how you would possibly legally, Mr. Walker, be allowed to say short-term rentals have to use driveways, but the public people can use the public parking and not have to use the driveway provided for them?
I can address that.
Okay, that's what I was hoping you would.
So, once again, the purpose of this ordinance is to protect the quality and characteristics of your neighborhood. You have a significant number of people that have purchased homes in these residential areas, understanding what the neighborhood is like, and hoping for and desiring the level of consistency and quality that the neighborhood offers. When you invite in short-term rental tenants, that is adding a potentially significant amount of vehicle traffic to the property, as well as taking those parking spots that those homeowners are relying upon. So if you're going to run a short-term rental, and the township is going to permit that, then it is extremely reasonable and legal for the township to require that the short-term renters, as part of the license to operate that short-term rental, park on the property and that there be sufficient parking on the property. If there isn't sufficient parking on the property, then what's being done is the home is being overloaded, thus providing additional negative benefits to the neighbors of that property.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from. I was looking at it as a non-occupied, where we're not parking our vehicles there, but I see where you're talking about the occupied, where you're gonna have twice as many vehicles.
Thank you.
I was in the middle of mine, I was just questioning Tracy's concern about that one, which we talked about. But, no, I read over this word for word 2 or 3 times, just to make sure everything was consistent and I understood everything that was going on, and I feel it's perfectly appropriate to adopt the ordinance as is, possibly with a more stricter definition that, or requirement that vehicles have to be on the property. There may be some looseness in the ordinance about that, so if we could tighten the language, that would be good. Otherwise, I'm totally satisfied.
Please, name and residence.
Yeah, Eric Hurwitz, I'm a resident of Ferguson Township. I just have a really quick question with the benefit of special counsel being here. I, as you know, have retained counsel myself, and in discussion between special counsel and my counsel, it was my understanding, and please correct me if this is incorrect, that your special counsel had suggested that you grandfather the non-owner occupied use and allow that to continue to run with the land. This version does not have that provision, and I'm just curious the thought process, or again, please correct me if that is incorrect, but that was the information I was given, why that provision didn't carry over and what the thought process of the board was to exclude what special counsel had suggested to you.
Well, I think to address that, the grandfathering that we're speaking about is with respect to the non-owner occupied property. And it is the permission that the township would be giving to allow those non-owner occupied properties to continue to operate subject to the restrictions that are contained within the ordinance. So the non-owner occupied property is not something that would be running with the land. It would be kept with the current owner, and but all of the other restrictions would continue to be applied towards those non-conforming uses, grandfathered uses, however it is that you want to say what they are. As it's been stated previous times by some of the board members, I heard it this evening, under the slice of life case, the township has to give the express permission to allow the short-term rentals to operate in the township. And that is because of the same reason that I've gone back to numerous times this evening, and that is because the short-term rentals are such a different use in a long-term residential community such as Harris Township. And without them specifically authorizing them, each one of those uses is illegal. So what the township is proposing is to not take that business away, even though that would be their legal right to do so, and saying that you can continue to operate it as a non-owner occupied property. However, that is only going to be for the current ownership, and it still has to be consistent and subject to the remainder of the restrictions that are in place within this ordinance. So it's quite an allowance that the township is providing those individuals.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, please.
Sean Houts, College. Can you help me understand, I guess, why, I guess, for the grandfathered or non-conforming uses, why is the short-term rental exclusionary, I guess, when there is certainly a demand in the area for like interim housing for people that are moving to the area and will certainly be making an investment? Can you help me understand why are you limited? Why is it either or, long-term or short-term, which seems to deviate from the ordinance and zoning in other municipalities?
So those are the policy decisions that have been made by the board.
We don't have to answer that. I mean, you made your point, you asked the question, but
I didn't make a point. I was asking for
this
rationale.
is a question and answer period. I mean, we've been going over this for months and months and months and had a lot of input.
I wasn't notified. I just became aware of this, and that's why I'm here tonight.
I understand.
So forgive me, I'm naive here, but there seems to be a particularly like abrasive tone taken towards property owners, people that are paying taxes in your municipality.
Not true. There's just a handful of people that are obviously not happy with the draft ordinance that we have here. I think the majority of people in the community would support this, and I vote for my constituents.
I guess, is there a report on the incidents you're referring to, like incident rates and the problems and reports? I guess, is there a report of those?
You're free to talk to staff anytime during business hours.
Okay.
Again, this is comments, not question and answer.
Well, I guess okay, I guess, so my comment to you is, are you willing to discuss, though, the addition of interim housing for the non-conforming use versus allowing those properties to sit vacant for 2/3 of the year?
We cannot do an ordinance. We've tried to do it. We cannot do an ordinance that accommodates every situation for every owner. We had a planning commission tonight tell us that they think that we shouldn't even do it in residential, and your thing that what's our residents want. We're trying to accommodate so that we can help the majority of the people, and the majority of the people in this situation. You know, I've heard, you know, cost and all that. Well, I've been in business, I'm retired, I was in business for 50 years, and I always pass the cost on to the customer. So that argument doesn't cut weight with me. And if I'm not making money at it, I quit doing it. So anyway, but to answer your question, we're trying to do this the best we can, and I think I made a statement way early on in this discussion that we only have two choices. We can make an ordinance like this that allows short-term rentals to continue, or we make a motion and we say no short-term rentals in Harris Township. That's our two choices. So I like this choice, I like these ordinances, and that's where I'm headed. And we've talked about this for a long time, and I'm ready to vote.
I apologize, I wasn't part of that discussion. It doesn't seem like you're really open to comment.
I'm done with my blurb.
Yeah, do we have a motion?
I don't believe that you do yet, and I would recommend that whenever a motion is made, well, you certainly can do separate motions if you'd like, just for clarity, so that I'm aware of what the draft final ordinance needs to say, I know Supervisor Moriarty and Supervisor Wilson both provided comment on the Planning Commission's feedback. I'd just like that on the record of whether or not you want single-family residential included in that draft zoning amendment for you to review in the future.
I think that has been our intention.
Okay, as long as, I just wanted to make sure that was part of whatever motion you make, so I am clear to add
And
that.
I'll say from my own opinion, you can disagree, I'm not excited about the mandating that the visitors be on the street, because it seems to me it's difficult to enforce, and I don't really like having ordinances and stuff that we can't enforce.
Well, the problem is, just please consider, is we've had issues with too many cars parking on the street, and if we can legally require tenants, short-term rental tenants to park in the street, I think we should do so. It may not be always enforceable, but if somebody has a complaint, they have recourse by calling the police. But a few will slip through the cracks, but
I think that's the only thing that I
happens.
say about it, is I want to give the residents some power in doing that, because I was one of the neighborhoods hit with a ton of cars on the street, so I would like to just give the residents power. I mean, do I think it's gonna happen? Do I think maybe not, but I just want the residents to have a little power if they feel abused.
I think it will give them power if they know somebody's having running a short-term rental and there's a car from Texas parked on the street overnight. Well, and then that person happens to be a guest of that place, then guess what? They can get cited. The actual licensee.
We need to take care of Mark
would be
here.
cited, right?
Yeah, we need to take care of Mark.
Yeah.
What else do you need to know?
Oh, that was it. I just want to make sure it was, whatever you want me to include in these final ordinances.
Okay, I'm not stuck on the street parking, since we're requiring parking places to be available on property. And,
Seems redundant.
yeah, so, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we send these on for public comment.
Public hearing.
Public hearing, okay,
November.
public hearing, yeah, we did the comment.
And
A second?
second.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We'll see you all next month. Okay.
Tim?
We'll give it a second here.
Yeah. That was close to the end.
All right, thank you, Mark. I'll send you a revision with some of that language you just have to.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Call your wife.
Good night.
The other night. I forgot my summary budget.
I just haven't, I looked through it all, I didn't have any questions.
I guess I have one question. I think that's all I had.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Yes, I only have one question. I only have one question, but I actually have two, but I don't know what's. I only have one question.
Can you find it?
I remembered it when I opened it up.
Okay. Oh, good. All right. Gentlemen,
Outside, please, if you're gonna discuss that. Thank you.
Okay, next item up, COG summary budget.
All right, so at their meeting on September 18th, 2025, the Executive Committee referred the COG summary budget to participating municipalities for review and comment. As is noted in here, there will be a 4.27% decrease of $34,366 for a total contribution of $770,287. I'll point out that some of that decrease I know is the fact that we will no longer have local planning, so it is somewhat of a reduction in service, but also a likewise reduction in cost. I did want to point out that Kimberly McMullen did log on, probably right before the beginning of that last item. Should you have any questions for her,
So, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
As being the member of the Finance Committee, I would just like to say on this year's process, it was much better. I mean, I felt much more input on what went down, but we still need to improve. I think our comments of prioritizing Hessfield and saying, hey, we didn't want more than this much increase, it did make a dent. I think that was, we did receive it well at the committee, and other members picked up on it. So I think that going forward, I would maybe need to refine that process a little more, but maybe take the that SCSI or whatever they call it. Anyway, take that and prioritize each of those, which one we like the best. Send that in with our increase. I think might be a little bit better, but I think overall, I think the budget process went a lot better this year. And I think we've got the point across, on especially like on Park and Rec. We've pretty much told them before next year's SCSI, well, before it starts next year, we want to see what each program's doing, if it's profitable, if it's not profitable. So we're making some inroads, and instead of just getting a Christmas list that we end up with a lot of money, I think the budget process went well this year. We will have our Thursday, we'll have our what we call our after action report, where we'll sit down on all the comments we made during the process and try to get those out for next year. So that being said, I'm fairly comfortable with what we came up with. There's some things I didn't like, some things I liked, but overall, I was pretty happy with the process.
For comparative reasons, if you look at the first 2 or 3 number, like 8 and 9, I looked at everything Harris Township, and I'm relatively pleased with the Harris Township numbers. The yellow line and everything, and it's not greatly disturbing. Reflective of what we're going to do planning-wise, you have to see. That's an unknown what we're talking about Wednesday night.
The only comment I have is I'm pleased, again, that the percentage increases and all that. I mean, it's hard to tell the numbers exactly, but the fact that we're not going to be paying significantly more, if any, considering the fact that we're going to have to pay for planning services on the side. So that's kind of a slight unknown. However, I think it's still a very reasonable number. And the other thing is I'm pleased, again, that finally Hessfield is in the budget to be completed as we planned.
Don't count it major-wise. Don't use a big M when you talk about Hessfield.
Well, I'm just saying I'm glad it's in the budget.
So something else, when you just mentioned Hessfield, if you looked on the thing, I think it's $10,000 for Hessfield lighting. And if you're wondering, how could they ever get lighting up for $10,000? Well, here's the deal, folks. It has nothing to do with putting new lights up. Those are starting to fall down, and they're starting to get people, softballs hit with. So the $10,000 is to tear those out. So, so don't be thinking we're getting new lighting for $10,000. No, that's to tear out the old stuff that's fallen down.
I was aware of that.
Yeah.
Your turn.
One little comment. You know, I was just wondering, like, as I'm reading this, and maybe it's not the place to look at everything, but it talks a lot about the programs and rec parks, and I'm wondering why we haven't received an update as far as what the rec park programs are costing us, and, you know, what we're getting back from the programs. I know that we run short in aquatics, and I agree that that's important enough, but I'm just wondering, like, was it 2 years ago they promised they would do a breakdown and analysis of the cost of the programs? I'd just be interested to see, because it seems that we are increasing the programs, and I'm fine with that as long as I'd like to see some information on that.
It's coming.
Okay, that's the only thing. I mean, it's been coming good grief.
Well, I know, but
it's ridiculous.
We've
Somebody
been told
could do this
it'll be
easily.
to us before the next year's budget
Yeah, I'm glad it
process.
took 2 years.
Well, it did.
So
We
that was
did
the
get some
only
numbers this year.
comment that I really
They
had.
were overall numbers, but we did get some overall numbers this year.
Yeah, we've got some
Do we
numbers,
know
revenues
the
from programs.
income by township to rec parks? Do we
As
know
far
how
as
much?
which township participated?
Yeah,
No, I don't believe we know that. They had no total, they just know totals of
No,
who
they
come.
don't. They can tell you for some things.
Yeah, but for the most part, it's just like how many kids came out for something.
Yeah, but if you go down and picnic, they don't know where you came from.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of register.
But they should be able to see who
registration,
registered for
yeah.
what, and they should see the money coming in for a certain registration, for a certain this and certain that. If they don't see that, it's easy enough to, it's like buying a ticket and knowing what concert you're going to.
So, and I've been on the authority pushing for this cost recovery information. They don't have to run a profit, but we ought to be aware of.
I never said they did.
No, I'm not, I'm just, but we need to know what it is and kind of like how efficient is it?
Yeah.
And so that's the information we need. And I'm not sure. I see that overall budget presented to us, and I see us asking to prioritize something that's gonna cost the COG, $1,200. Don't ask me about that.
Yeah.
Ask me about the big ticket items and what I think about the big ticket items. The other stuff, that's managing. The COG ought to manage that portion, make the decisions for each agency, add the agencies up, and just come up with a balance that achieves a reasonable level of increase. And the cost of
This chair's broke.
the cost of doing business, we paid a lot of money for that chair.
It's broke.
The
There's
cost
another
of,
one over there.
cost of doing business is gonna go up every year.
I was almost surprised on page 28 to see a beginning fund balance for Park and Rec of $346,000. Am I reading that correctly?
Probably. But you've got to understand there's some restricted numbers in there. Like for example, I think there's a couple 100,000 there for Hesfield that's restricted.
Well,
So there, some of that's restricted. We are working on, Denny, to answer your question there, we should by January 26th, maybe February, we're going to have a fund balance policy. We've been working on it now for about 6 months.
for all agencies?
For everything, it's gonna tell them how much they can get. Each agency will have their own thing, so hopefully we'll have that to you guys early part of the winter to look at and we can approve.
A big number struck me.
Well, some of it, in the big numbers, yeah, but you gotta look at what's in there. Some of that's restricted for future projects. Like I said, I think there's 600,000 there for Hess.
Well, it says restricted gifts for park, 91,000.
Well, there's like monies in there that are restricted for projects, not gifts.
Okay.
Where are you at?
Okay.
What
Well,
else?
Yeah, we're gonna work on that. We're working on that.
You have what you need?
Yeah, for the most part, it sounded like fairly positive comments, one about getting the park rec numbers, but I didn't hear anything specific that you want changed, so I can just provide a general letter back to the COG.
Yeah.
Pick out a few talking points that.
Mine is stop nickel and diming me, and manage the budget, and ask me about the high priority stuff, the expensive stuff.
And that's something I did bring up in the, how much we pay those agency directors. They should be able to make decisions on it. We should tell them how much we're giving them and they take care of it from there.
Okay.
Just
Ready?
come back with the big stuff.
Ready to move on?
Yep.
All right. Next.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the closure of Main Street from the eastern end of the Diamond to Tennis Alley and Church Street from Rockies Alley to Chambers Alley on December 6th from 3:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the tree lighting and approval of the approval of the use of the Bollesburg Fire Police for traffic control for the event.
second. And a ho on that one.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes. Manager's report.
So out of respect for everyone's time, I'll just hit a few quick items. Reminder, Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock, you have your first budget review session here in this room, so I'll see you all then. Number 6, just pointing out here, Rob Watts and I did meet with a representative from the PA Military Museum to talk about the placement of infrastructure related to the Bowl Avenue pedestrian crossing. We've since had a meeting with PennDOT as well to talk about the need to acquire easements within the right-of-way. So that process is moving forward, and we're hopefully still on the schedule for completion next summer. Number 8, Hope's Dream Rescue and Sanctuary did begin their trap, neuter, and return program in Country Place Park. We do have some residents that are willing to help out with that, which has been very useful, and they think there's a lot of cats, I don't even have a number, but they went out and they're also possibly going to be trapping soon up at the Calvary Baptist property. There's some cats up there as well. So
Remember, my wife can't see any.
I know. Yes, you made that clear. I wanted to also point out number 11. I met with Habitat for Humanity and XHAB about the printing of the home back here. They are going to start. I thought they were actually going to deliver material today, but I don't think I saw it delivered. They're going to be using a corner of our parking lot to set up a tent. They are going to have a bunch of listening sessions, one for municipal leaders on October 22nd at 10. So if you're interested in coming out and hearing a little bit more about it and watching the little machine back there do its thing, you can certainly do that. They've also indicated they're going to be printing the house from about 7 in the morning to 8 at night. So I've asked them to please notify some of the adjoining property owners. It's going to have a diesel generator running to power this. It's electric powered, the device, but we do not have enough power in our shop back here. They needed a 480 plug to run it, and we don't have it. So
Did they say how long it's gonna take?
I think they said about 3 weeks. They were hoping to go 2 weeks, but they would need to print 16-hour days at a time. I think with respect to the neighborhood, that would be too much.
I can walk down and
They're
check
putting
that
on
out.
that, no stakes in the asphalt.
I've already made that clear. Believe me, that was the first comment. No stakes in the asphalt. They're gonna have it weighted down.
That's not mistakes, that's mistakes.
Right. And then the last item I point out is I'm going to be out of town October 25th to the 29th for the ICMA conference. I'm going to extend my time in Florida and spend some time with my family, but certainly if you need to get a hold of me, I'll have my phone and email. So.
Florida.
That's how I heard about the little family we did out of it.
Pretty good. I have family in Florida. My wife's going to fly down. Yeah, we're going to visit some folks. Yeah.
Do we have a closer time period when that crosswalk is gonna go in?
So they're hoping to have it done by next summer, like July-ish.
Okay.
But it all comes down to getting these easements. It's the bureaucracy of Pennsylvania. They have to go through maybe PHMC for the military museum. There's also, it's adjacent to the historic district. So it's all these reviews we have to go through. But it seemed hopeful from PennDOT and from both them and the military museum that this shouldn't be held up needlessly because it is a pretty simple project. So we're keeping our fingers crossed we can just move it along and start bidding it out early next year.
Simple but expensive.
When we announced that we got the grant, the owners of Bowl City asked me, when we announced the grant was obtained, one of the owners of Bowl City asked me, when did he think this would be in? And I said, this is the state of Pennsylvania. Don't hold your breath. Okay. Someone want to move to approve the voucher?
I'll move that at $286,744.59.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed no. Vouchers are approved. Committee reports. The executive committee does what the executive committee always does. Parks Capital did not meet. Parks Governance Committee is moving along slowly, looking at a couple of items. One is a policy for the Parks Agency to accept responsibility for newly acquired parks. So if we suddenly decide to build a big park, we're not going to, but should they automatically have to assume all that cost of maintaining it without, and that ups everybody's budget? Or so it's something that needs to be straightened out. We're going to be working on a memorandum of understanding between the municipalities and the park agency, and also recommendations are going to be coming forth for modifying the park authority's bylaws. And yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps it up for parks. Human Resources.
Okay, Human Resources, we haven't met since our last meeting. Climate Action and Sustainability, I ended up missing that meeting last minute today, so I don't have a report on that either.
Okay. Mr. Haymeister.
Which one you got first?
Pardon?
Which one you have first?
Oh, land use and community
Okay.
infrastructure.
We met in, with the Center Region Planning Commission and had a very interesting discussion. It focused on minor and major DRIs with respect to sewer coming to Hessfield, and it went in all kinds of tangents. And I think it comes down to the fact that nothing is going to happen until 2027 when we redo the 537 plan. There seems to be a lot of concern about municipal contribution to paying for the sewer. I see that as going to be a major hang-up with respect to one or two townships even considering running sewer there. So we never did solve the major minor DLI, and it comes down to using a piece of municipal property like Hessfield that isn't adjacent to a area that right now has sewer. So as a major 3 mile section, three-quarter mile section that is farmland, and how do you handle that with respect to a DRI, either major or minor? So that it'll be in making for another year at least.
Hessfield is not a municipal property.
Pardon?
Hessfield is not a municipal property.
It's township property.
It's Hessfield?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's municipal.
Okay, but it's regional. It's not,
Well,
it's, okay, yeah, good.
and running sewer to a municipal property without making it available to everyone else in the middle caused a great concern.
Make it available.
Well, we talked about the properties, the 4 properties on Woodside Drive, which lead to the water authority. They're on the septic system. And we have about a 3/4 mile section between Hessfield and Fairfield that they have to hook up to the sewer system. And all that's very expensive, so it'll be a while before we get to that point. The solar project, we met for the first time as the Center County Solar Group, and its major point was a discussion by a gentleman from Prospect 14 who sort of came to us and talked about the impact of the Washington DC stance on green energy and how its impact may affect their finances within Prospect 14. And luckily, the solicitor was sitting there, and she made known to Prospect 14 that we have a contract with them, and that there will be no more money spent by the members of the solar project, and they will have to get a project done.
What happens if they go bankrupt?
Sue them.
Betsy, is that Betsy?
Pardon?
Was that Betsy?
Yes.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
Betsy.
And fortunately, Betsy was there, and she knows that ballgame, and so they will send us a report on what happened at that meeting, but it was a most interesting discussion.
I think I know the answer is what happens if they go bankrupt and the project's not completed? I forget the answer to the question.
Well, they said they would sue them.
It comes down to changes in tax credit eligibility,
I know that.
decreased value of renewable energy credits, and increase in market price for electricity. All that's occurred since things have changed in Washington, so that's as much as I can tell you. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Finance.
Sure. The last meeting, we basically, that was our final follow-up meeting on all the budget sessions we had. We saw the outcome of it. Like I said, the process went well. There was a few other things we talked about, like the new aerial truck, which we don't have to worry about. And we talked about, we did authorize or sent to the general forum, which I think we voted on, about the EV infrastructure grant. So they're doing that. But other than that, and we gave permission for the dental and vision plan, but that was pretty much all we did there. We meet this week for our after action, so we'll know Thursday. We'll start working on that. You want me to keep going?
Yes, please.
Connector, from my understanding, we should have something back at the beginning of the year, early part of the year, on the NEPA and all that, so that probably next spring and summer we'll be doing the old community outreach, whatever you want to call it. They'll be putting things out, so there'll be some meetings there. But it's getting closer. Hopefully when it comes back, we're going to have a final. The PennDOT is recommending the center. If you've seen the three, they're recommending the central route. Okay, so if you're looking at somebody ask you, that's what they're doing. MPO, we did a lot of MPO. Mostly right now what we're doing is we're going through all the plans. We did the air quality, we did long-range transportation plan, connector projects, but mostly that's what we're doing. We did our budget, we did that, and we had a discussion on the strategic plan, which there were some things that never got up on that, but MPO is doing fine. We don't meet again till the end of November.
Okay, Facilities Committee.
Well, we need to look at the agenda. I don't know where the hell it is. We did asset inventory and capital replacement plan updates, and actually it was kind of interesting. And it was nice to know that they do have plans, but I guess I was kind of wondering, like, when they have these plans, are these plans funded? Is it like a condo? Maybe you can answer that.
Huh?
Like, if you have plans and they've got these the asset plans for replacement. And so they've got something, I don't know, XYZ thing for replacement, they have it scheduled, a certain amount of money should be going to that over the years. Do they in fact actually budget for that, or is this just paper money?
No, it's actually money they should be putting away. If you
Okay.
look at what we're doing with our fire trucks right now.
Yep, that's what I thought.
If you look at it, we've got a big number in there, but that's because we've ordered a truck and it's gonna be going away in a
Yeah, I
couple
saw
years.
that. So, and we did do the Whitehall Road, park concessions and pavilion update, and that's basically it. I was just making sure, because I didn't want to ask the questions, I felt kind of stupid. And then in public safety, they're looking for money. They're still looking for money, for a grant for the PA Gaming statewide local share account, where they're applying for that grant for the money so that, so they can figure out what to do with putting those charging stations in that we bought the cars for already, but we didn't want the cars bought until we definitely had the charging stations, but apparently it didn't matter what I bought. So, and then, there was one other thing, and then the COG staff update for code, and that was
I
it.
think we got the other one. Okay, Public Safety.
That was me, I just did that, you weren't listening.
No, I was signing stuff.
That's okay, you're okay, you did not miss a lot, okay?
Nice report, they probably spelled that wrong. That's what it's called.
All right, good. This is
That's not what I know it is.
Okay.
one on the back page of this, and then
Oh, I have to
another
sign
one
that?
over
Yeah, you
here.
got a bunch of stuff.
You got a few to sign.
Anything
Make a
else?
motion, we adjourn.
We're adjourned.
I'm sorry, I was sleeping.
Oh my gosh, you shoved this all in my face.
Oh my God, just a signature.